across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. This is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. Why am I giving myself an extra hour? I've never said 4 hours. For the next... Oh, my team has said they're going home at 1 o'clock, so I'm on my own if I stay for an extra hour. No, I'll be here for 3 hours. I'm here until 1 o'clock in the morning as usual. So I will be here for 3 of those hours. So coming up, of course, at midnight, it's your chance to talk back. And I do want to examine homelessness because it is something we've talked about before. And it is something that that a lot of the homeless charities say we're none of us are that very far away from it actually happening to us, right? It is something for me that I find incredibly distressing when I see people who are rough sleeping or who are homeless. And I think it's potentially because I made a documentary about homelessness some years ago now, with a particular interest in homeless veterans, military men and women. So that was the angle that I came at it from. But I think since then, and talking to those people and meeting with them, it's been a real heartbreak of mine just to imagine people without a door to close, without somewhere safe to go. So I'd love to hear from you about homelessness and what you think it would take to fix it, because Andy Burnham is actually talking about rough sleeping. He's not talking about homelessness. There is a difference in those two things, although one is the same as the other isn't the same as that. So rough sleepers who are also homeless, how do we solve that problem? Because rough sleepers have an enormous amount of other issues, and often, even if they are brought in, if they're not helped with their addiction problems or other mental health issues, they just end up back on the streets. So it's not just a case of giving somebody a room, as we were saying yesterday. But I'd love to hear from you if you've ever had an experience of being homeless, if you've ever been worried about being homeless, if you've ever sofa surfed, if anybody in your family has been a rough sleeper, anything like that, just so we get a bigger picture of what it is to be homeless or to be a rough sleeper. So that's coming up at midnight. I look forward to talking to you about that. 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but of course we call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Let me tell you what the rest of the show looks like. We have Ed Wiseman coming into the studio, transport and travel journalist. He's going to be here to help us go through the papers for tomorrow. Max Hess is joining us to talk about the Russia live fire exercise and what that actually means for Britain, and whether it was just a coincidence that they did that on the day we had a new Prime Minister that offered full and fulsome support to Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be, like I said, addressing the homelessness issue and discussing that to see the complications that there may well be. But of course, you couldn't help but notice that today was the first full day of our new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, who promised to give us breathing space with some help with the cost of living. And look, Rome wasn't made in a day, right? But I did say that I would be hugely disappointed if he, having trumpeted that he was going to do something to give us breathing space, actually gave us £3 off our winter fuel. Now, that's what it works out to be, because it's actually £25 because it's only costed for 6 months, and the rate of increase in fuel is £22. So we get a full £3 off. And that is dependent as well on how much electricity we actually use. So I am disappointed. And I think that if you say you're going to do something, then do it. It's better to undersell and over-deliver than to try and say, I'm going to be doing this for you, and then it falling flat. Plus, we've learned today, of course, that it actually isn't costed. And we learned that from Darren Jones, who was sacked by, I think, a text or a phone call from Andy Burnham. So it already looks like the lovely, fluffy, friendly new Labour government that we were expecting under Andy Burnham, a change, a difference, like we were told under Keir Starmer, is beginning to fall apart. So already on a day 1.5. So let's discuss this further and speak to Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post. Kevin, good to see you. I don't want to sound like I'm being ungrateful, and I think if it wasn't trumpeted and it came just as an aside, we would all be going, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a little bit underwhelming. For lots of reasons. I mean, you've just gone through them there. I mean, the main one being it's only for 7 months.
Yeah,
I think.
6-7 months. It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not as if it's taking us up to the next general election, for instance. And also, there's this question about whether or not they have the money for it. Now, you're right. Darren Jones, quite significantly, I think this morning came out and said, "Well, this is unfunded." Now, bear in mind, obviously, he has got an axe to grind because he was sacked yesterday by Andy Burnham. But also, then the government, they came out and said, well, actually, no, it is funded. But we had a briefing with the Prime Minister's spokesman this afternoon, at which he was asked repeatedly to explain how it was funded. And I have to say, it was pretty unconvincing. He was talking about its departments will have to find savings in order to pay for it. Which, yeah, it's not exactly nailed down. Let's just say that. So,
yeah, I mean, that's not a, you know, if I think, well, I've got to cut my budget by 20 quid, I don't then go out before I've cut my budget by 20 quid and spend 40 quid, right? I mean, that's not how normal people work. But the interesting thing is that if he couldn't have said it was properly funded, really, because he's only just got his new Chancellor. They've only just opened the books. So it would be, I just wonder again whether he's jumped the gun like Keir Starmer tried to do with the winter fuel allowance with old age pensioners. A policy that takes longer to put together is better than just throwing one out there and hoping it's going to stick. It seems unprepared.
Yeah, he's making himself a bit of a hostage to fortune, and they obviously feel that they need to hit the ground running. They need to provide a sense of optimism and hope. He's spoken about hope. Now, they want to contrast that with Keir Starmer's first impression as Prime Minister, if you remember.
Yeah, it was all dour, wasn't it?
It was all very doom and gloom. I remember him giving a press conference just after the election in 2024 in the Downing Street Garden, where he talked about basically things are a lot worse than we thought, and it's going to be tough, and we're just going to have to tighten our belt, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it was just the wrong tone, and people were looking for a bit of sunny optimism. People had voted for change, and then they were smacked in the face with misery and depression. So Andy Burnham has obviously learnt that lesson and thinking, right, I've got to, prove to people that we get it. We understand the cost of living is still biting. So we need to come up with policies. Now, there are going to be other policies. I think tomorrow we're going to see a cap on bus fares across the country. I think later in the week we'll probably see cuts to business rates for the hospitality sector. So this is, as I say, to give a sense of momentum of the government. But at the same time, he is raising the bar very high, getting people's hopes up that they're going to feel a lot better off. And if it turns out that electricity bills are still going to go up in October, just not by as much as they otherwise would have been, people won't even notice that. And I think they'll be pretty frustrated. Yeah,
and the other thing is that there's another price rise due in January, so that could also be swallowed. I mean, that £3, Kevin, might disappear. And also, I can't help but think that if this isn't funded long term, because his idea of the funding was, of course, the money that was due to be spent on the digital ID scheme. So he saw 1.8 billion there, and he probably thinks that's his budget to spend in these 3 days. So let's find out if the bus fares, how the bus fares are funded. Are they funded from that same pot of non-existent money? But so he's made a rod for his own back as well, because you can't. He's going to have to put that back on unless they can fund it properly in the budget, right? As an ongoing, then that's worse. To give somebody some relief and then go, but then in 7 months we're just going to bung that straight back on your bills.
Yeah, exactly. That is the problem. It's an 850. Even if you assume that they're going to find that money, that's 850 million pounds that they're spending,
which nobody will really feel.
Which no one will really feel. And then you're going to be presented with, you're going to be back to square one again come next April.
Yeah.
He's going to have to find that money all over again and the following year. So it looks like a little bit of trickery almost, that they're trying to be a little bit too cute because they're so desperate to garner some positive headlines, which might give them a bit of a sugar rush initially.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will take long for reality to kick in, and we're already seeing disquiet because when you make such huge changes to the cabinet, which he had to do, which he was perfectly entitled to do, you make a lot of enemies, and there'll be a lot of people who, one, are unhappy at losing their jobs. There'll be people who think they should have got promoted and weren't, and that is going to breed resentment, and that's going to be something that he's going to have to try and keep a lid on and try to contain while trying to hold the party together, and it's going to be very difficult indeed.
I mean, Darren Jones was quickly out the gate, though, wasn't he? I mean, my goodness me. And that was a really pointed message that he put out there. That was one or two fingers. I can't quite figure out which of those symbols it was, but it was definitely one of them.
Well, yeah, it was really dramatic because it was early this morning.
Yeah.
So the choreography was that this announcement about VAT of electricity bills, that was made bang on 6 o'clock this morning, and then I think it was around about 8 o'clock.
Around about 8, yeah.
Yeah, Darren Jones takes to X and makes this post pretty incendiary, really, saying that, well, this is unfunded, so they're going to have to find the money from somewhere else. And it was like, well, there's a cat amongst the pigeons straight away, and it was a sort of shot across the bows, really, for Andy Burnham. Now, what one senior Labour figure said to me on this, someone who's not a fan of Andy Burnham, I have to say, said, look, an unfunded tax cut is just a red line for a lot of Labour MPs, which was a dig at this announcement. And it just shows that for all the talk of party unity and hundreds of Labour MPs nominating Andy Burnham, there is still an awful lot of resentment there, which was only made worse by the reshuffle that he carried out yesterday. Well,
I was just going to say, this Labour now one team, even though there are at least 11 disgruntled former ministers, and he orchestrated a coup against the last leader. So, I mean, to say it's all lovely and fluffy, I don't think any of us particularly buy that. And the latest thing as well is Anna Sarwar, the SNP, now saying, I mean, this is, again, it's just, I was saying this just a moment ago to Peter, this is just the politics as usual. We're so tired of being told we're going to be a different type of politics. And in order to get Sarwar into Westminster, he's having to get a peerage. I mean, this is gifts for the boys, isn't it? Again.
Well, it is, and it's also rewards for failure because led Labour to their worst performance. Absolutely. In a Holyrood election, they got absolutely tonked again by the SNP, and the punishment, in inverted commas, that Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, is, he gets a job for life in the House of Lords and a job in the UK government. I mean, it is absolutely astonishing. And but bear in mind, of course, Anna Sarwar was one of the first, if not the first, senior Labour figure to call on Keir Starmer to resign back in February.
And he was a lone voice then, wasn't he? Because everybody else sort of just backed off. So he's just being rewarded. It's... I mean, so much for, we're going to be different, no factionalism, it's going to be a meritocracy, people with the right credentials get the right jobs. It's all the same, again.
Well, it is, and if you're a Scottish Labour MP right now who is on the backbenches, and is not going to become a minister, you think to yourself, well, how on earth have I been passed over for a guy who didn't even stand for election in 2024?
And like you said, he's got a job for life now, £350 a day.
Exactly, and he is now going to sort of leapfrog those of us who ran a campaign, were elected in 2024, were sitting on the back benches, and here's a guy who isn't even an MP, is going to, as I say, jump the queue and become a minister because, you know, he's mates with Andy Burnham. So again, that's that resentment thing. You know, that's a lot more Labour MPs there who think they should be ministers are being kicked to the curb to let a guy come in from outside, and that's not going to go down well either. But as you say, it feels like politics as usual when we were promised change. Yeah,
well, and not to mention Louise Haigh, who had to leave over a fraud charge, a previous fraud charge, and Angela Rayner back in her old job as well, having to resign over underpayment of stamp duty as housing minister. I mean, that has all been sorted now, but still, I literally don't have the words.
Well, it's like a revolving door, isn't it? Yeah. It seems that as long as you're a mate of Andy, then it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You know, all your sins are absolved, and you're allowed to come back and wipe the slate clean.
As long as you stick by Andy. I mean, again, it's just the old boys network, but with girls in it instead. Is she going to have to pay back the 17 grand that she got when she quit? Or is there a time limit on that?
I think no. There's a time limit on that.
I think it's 3 months, isn't it? So she'll get to keep that.
That was September that she went. So you're pushed on for a year, so no, she won't have to give that back. But it'll be interesting to see how voters perceive it. You know, whether this idea that it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You know, you may have been forced to resign, but as long as you're friends with the leader or with the new leader, then you'll get your old job back effectively. And you know, Louise Haigh now is incredibly
powerful.
Effectively the deputy prime minister. It doesn't look as though someone's is going to be formally given the title of deputy prime minister. She is the first secretary of state, which is basically the most senior figure in government other than the prime minister. So she's now the second most powerful politician and certainly the most powerful woman in the country, and it'll be interesting to see how she manages that.
I mean, so far, we all want Andy Burnham to do well, not in party political terms, but in terms of getting the country out of the hole that it's in. But I'm already incredibly disappointed, and I didn't want to be disappointed. What do you think the country will make of this so far? I mean, we're a day and a half in, but still, there's been some significant moves that indicate where he's going and what he's going to do with the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think the problem is when you set the bar so high, when you come in and you're talking about you're going to change politics, you're going to overturn the last 40 years of Thatcherite economics, as he would say. When you say that you're going to be, you know, a unifying figure, that you're going to provide hope and optimism. You're going to heal the wounds of the nation and bring the country together. You're going to work across party. You're going to collaborate with other parties. Now, it's very early days on that front. He may well, you know, he's not even stood up in Parliament at the dispatch box yet because, you know, Parliament is in recess now until September. So we wait to see on how that collaboration that he talks about with other parties will actually pan out. But the difficulty is, you know, as I say, you set the bar so high, and if you fall short of it, then voters are going to be very angry indeed.
And what I think, again, I was saying this yesterday, that to say you're going to end rough sleeping, that is a measurable stick that he's just given us to beat him with. Because you know, London, right? You know London as well as I do. If we don't, you can see it. It's visible. It's, you know, distressing in its visibility. So if he doesn't end it like he didn't end it in Manchester, the numbers are coming down, but it's not. But that's a big visible thing that he said he is going to do. And again, I would have thought that was quite foolish on day one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is a noble aim, and I think no one would say that it is the wrong thing to be doing. You know, to end rough sleeping.
Of course it is. Yeah.
No one wants to see people sleeping rough on the streets of Great Britain. But again, it's how are you going to do it? We don't know the detail about what the plan is. How are you going to pay for it? And not only that, not only how are you going to pay for that, how he's talked about, you know, fixing social care. There's talk of that being like an £18 billion price tag.
That's a death tax, isn't it, they're talking about?
Well, exactly. So he's talking about raising, potentially he's mentioned anyway, raising the income tax threshold. So that's the amount of money that you can earn before you start paying income tax, which again, I think most people would agree that is something that should be done, but it costs an awful lot of money. And again, we don't know where the money for that is going to come from. He's talked about building 500,000 new council houses. Where's the money for that going to come from? So all of these things all sound fine in principle, but we've yet to see the detail and how he plans to pay for it. And we know it's not as if the government is awash with money.
No.
Right. So
no, he's got the same problems that Keir had. But we won't hear...
More borrowing, higher taxes, cuts elsewhere.
We're not going to hear anything, though, till September as well. I mean, that's the thing. And that's a long time for the country to wait to see, you know, just to put up with bluster and you know, we're all going to get a unicorn. We want to know how it's all going to happen. And we won't hear that for 5.5, 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's an incredibly strange situation where you have a new Prime Minister come in and he doesn't have to face scrutiny from MPs for 6 weeks.
Or press.
Or press. Or he tries to, but I mean, to be fair to him, so yesterday he agreed to have what's known as a huddle, which is like a mini little press conference off camera, but on the record, in the Downing Street garden, just after he gave his speech on the steps of Downing Street. I was there along with other journalists. Unfortunately, though, we only got 6 minutes with him. It was supposed to be longer, but he was pulled away for an important international call. So that was a good idea. But again, we need more of that. We need to be able to scrutinise him more, because he's not run a Labour leadership campaign. He's not stood in a general election. He won a by-election, and that's it. So that we need to properly scrutinise him in order to find out exactly what his plan is.
Well, I wonder if he knows yet. Let's hope so. Kevin, thank you very much indeed. Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Quick break. I'll be back in just one moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. This is Talk, and it's Petrie. And look, it is really good news that this Prime Minister wants to end rough sleeping. I think, as Kevin was just saying, and as I've said, it is something that any sensible, normal person with any moral fibre would want to help people who are rough sleeping. I just happen to know from, like I said, making a documentary a few years ago about rough sleepers, that it is an incredibly complicated, multi-agency, multifactional issue. It's not as simple as just offering these, largely men, but women too, somewhere to sleep. It's not that simple. 340 million is a welcome start to helping these people. But when you consider that an estimated nearly 5,000 people were sleeping rough on a single night in autumn of 2025, that's a new record high, marking the 4th annual increase in a row. That is a lot of people who need an enormous amount of help, and that's just as it was in autumn. You know, this is a situation with the price of mortgages going up, the price of rents going up, people losing jobs left, right and centre to AI or to other things. This is a problem that will only get worse and worse. So it's not something that is diminishing. It's not something that's getting less and less. It is something that is a major crisis and will be a major crisis facing hundreds of thousands of people in this country at any given moment. You know, a couple of payments or that you don't make to your mortgage and suddenly you're out on the street. So this is a situation that actually all of us should care about, because homelessness and us are never that far apart. We think they are, but then really not. And like I said, I've spoken to a lot of people on the streets who just, people like you and me, who just hit some bad luck along the way, and their lives changed forever. You go onto the streets, the only way you can cope with being on the streets is to drink or to take drugs, and then you've got additional problems that keep you on the streets. So I want to talk about that at midnight and ask you really how you think we can help with rough sleepers and with that sort of homelessness. But homelessness in general is a disgrace. It's an embarrassment in this country. We really shouldn't have that. We're still the 6th richest nation in the world. Hard to imagine, I know, because we're broke, but we still are. That there is anybody, you know, families living in hotel rooms for months and months and months on end. So how do we solve this problem? And have you ever experienced it? Have you ever or do you know somebody who has experienced either homelessness or rough sleeping? So do give me a call at midnight. I'd love to talk to you about this. Of course, homelessness, again, and rough sleeping is a symptom of domestic violence, of violence towards children in the home, all sorts of issues. This is what I'm saying. It is such a broad, wide issue that it is not an easy fix. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000, and you can send me a text as well if you put the word talk and then your message to 87222.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. It is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. We are going to be talking about, funnily enough, just hearing that, we're going to be talking about Russia in just a few moments' time, actually in about 15 minutes coming up. So we're going to be talking about the live firing exercise that took place in just off Plymouth, about 40 miles off Plymouth yesterday, the timing of it and why that is significant and why that is an issue for us. But right now it is time to talk about homelessness. And on his first day in office as Prime Minister, Andy Burnham made ending rough sleeping an immediate national policy and priority. Addressing the public from Downing Street, he rejected claims that tackling homelessness takes decades, insisting that political willpower can solve the crisis. Backed by a new £350 million investment, his strategy adopts a national housing first model to secure homes and tailored support, and it's that tailored support that I'm concerned about. Drawing on his experience in Greater Manchester, where he vowed to end rough sleeping in Manchester, which he didn't manage to do. He hasn't managed to achieve that, although the numbers are coming down, because it is such a complicated issue. Burnham vowed to unite local and national governments to end street sleeping. But how realistic are these plans, and how can they be implemented? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Andy Winter, former Brighton councillor and chief executive of the Brighton Housing Trust. It's good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Can I just correct you? I'm no longer the chief executive. Oh. I've been retired for 3 years. So,
retired chief executive then. We'll go for that. But thank you for the correction. Andy, this is such a complicated issue. I was explaining earlier to my listeners and viewers that I made a documentary a few years ago now on the streets of London about rough sleeping and homelessness, particularly concentrating on army veterans. But I spoke to an awful lot of people, and it occurred to me just how complicated the various issues are for people who are rough sleeping. This is not always just a simple case of somebody needing a roof over their head.
I think that's absolutely right. I think I welcome what Andy Burnham has said, but I have severe doubts whether he will actually achieve this ambition. Having ambition is great, but there are so many things that need to be put in place. I don't think resolving rough sleeping in itself is a difficult issue. When I started working with rough sleepers back in 1985, and I worked with them for almost 40 years, there were 5 groups of people. There were people with addictions, mental health problems, people who come out of the forces, as you've just referred to, care leavers, and people escaping violence and abuse in the home. 35, 40 years later, we're still seeing exactly the same cohort, with one addition: those people who, for purely financial reasons in this cost of living crisis since about 2010, have found it impossible to afford accommodation, especially in a city like Brighton and Hove, but also in Manchester. Now, Andy Burnham it was great that when he became mayor, he said he wanted to abolish rough sleeping. And in his first year, he achieved quite a lot. By 2021, rough sleeping had gone down from 268 in Manchester to 90. Now, 268 isn't that many people. It's really achievable. If you look at Los Angeles and San Francisco, you're talking about tens and tens of thousands of people. Here we've got a relatively small problem, but we have failed to address it, because we've focused purely on getting people into accommodation without looking at the underlying causes. And as a result, you might get this cohort of people into accommodation, but then there's the next wave of people with mental health problems and addictions, or leaving the services or subject to violence, who will come, and it'll be the next wave and the next wave and the next wave. And what we're trying to do is just plug holes without really addressing the failures of so many different things. Why is it that people are leaving our armed forces and ending up homeless?
It's shocking.
And we do need to address addictions properly in this country. At the moment, what we tend to do is we tend to let the NHS become another form of supply by having substitute prescribing. And people who keep one foot, they might reduce their illegal drug use, but if they're keeping one foot in the drug using culture, they're never going to achieve their potential. They are going to struggle to get employment. And I don't believe the people who said, oh, I know. Well, I'm sure some people do manage to hold down a job while with an active addiction. But in my 37 years experience, they are the exception, whereas the number of people who want to come off drugs have really that is the issue we really have to do. Help people come off alcohol and drug where they have a problem and stay off drugs. If we're merely providing substitutes and using things like housing first, this golden bullet, and that's what Andy Burnham has said. He wants housing first to be the main delivery in tackling rough sleeping. It's an extremely expensive approach, and if it's to be done properly, and in England we're tinkering, we're playing with it, we're not doing it properly. I'm not a fan of housing first because I think it is hideously expensive if you're going to do it properly. It's an open-ended commitment. Now, some people will of course benefit from getting housing with that support, but it's unconditional. So we don't expect people in a housing first service to address their addiction or their mental health problems. And so you'll just carry on creating more and more need because you're not getting people out the back end of the system into that bridge to normal living. And for you and I, what is normal living? It's having a home, but most importantly, having a job. That defines who we are. I don't describe myself as I'm Andy, I'm type 2 diabetic, but we tend to label clients as this is Mary, she's got an addiction, this is John, he's got a mental health problem. And we've got to get to the point where Mary no longer has an active addiction, she's in recovery, or John has actually come to terms with his mental health problem and is now able to live independently, perhaps with some support that might increase or decrease according to need. But we need to look at that bridgeway to normal living, the sorts of things you and I have taken for granted. But there's a lack of ambition in this country for people with rough sleeping. Too many professionals are happy to assist them a certain way along the way. In my organization, when I was still working there, we had an ambition that 15% of our staff should be former clients. We got up to 25%. And I used to say to new members of staff, can you imagine the person knocking on our door today, desperate for our help, may one day be your co-worker? And staff would say, yeah, I can go along with that. And then I said, okay, that person knocking on our door today, desperate for help, may one day be your manager. Oh, I'm not so sure about that, a few people would say, because they're the client. So why they were lacking ambition on behalf of clients. And that is part of the mindset that we have in this country in terms of working with people who are rough sleeping. Now, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not going to be a question of, okay, we will work with you for 3 weeks or 3 months and you'll be fine and you can toddle off on your own and have a happy, fulfilling lives. No, it's much more complicated than that. Our addiction services don't just, when I was working, I still say ours, after 37 years, it's difficult to break the habit. The addiction services run by BHT Sussex work with people for up to 12 months and in a staged way. And the final stage is focused entirely on work and learning. And we have accommodation around Brighton and Hove, safe accommodation. And the condition of living there is that they are actively engaged in either working or programs that will lead to employment.
Because you have people, don't you? And again, I discovered this when I was talking to them, that they get, these people will be helped into accommodation, but because they haven't had the other support, they can't live there properly. They don't know how to function, and they end up being chucked out of that place eventually for antisocial behaviour or for violence or for drugs, and then they're rough sleeping again. And you've just got this cycle, endless cycle. And the issue with a lot of the guys from the military that I chatted to was that they didn't know how to pay a bill or have money for a deposit, or they didn't know how, because if they went to the army at 17 and they left at, let's say, 25, 30, everything was done for them. They didn't know how to live in the world. So it's that kind of support as well, isn't it? And that is not just a case of a couple of weeks here or a couple of months there. That can take such a long time to get people, if you like, deprogrammed and reprogrammed into living in the world as we would want them to, and as they would want to.
Absolutely. And you remind me of a man I used to work with called Jimmy, who was a street homeless alcoholic in Brighton and Hove. I
remind you of him.
No, sorry, what you just
I see what you're saying. You are reminded of.
I am reminded.
Okay, a street homeless guy called Jimmy. I've never been called that before. Anyway, carry on, sorry.
And he said the one thing that he learned in the British Army was the one skill he took away when he left the army after 20 years was how to drink on an industrial scale.
Yeah.
And he ended up living in a bus shelter in central Brighton. And he said the worst part, and this has always stayed with me, the worst part of being a rough sleeper is at dusk when he saw people going home, and the light going on, and the curtains being closed. And he was on the outside and they were on the inside. And he said that was absolutely the worst moment. He woke up one morning with his best friend, Hughie, alongside him, and Hughie had died in the night. And Jimmy came to see us that next day, and we got him into our alcohol and drug rehab. And he became abstinent, and for the last 20 years of his life, I don't think I've ever met somebody who had, I don't usually quote the Bible, but life in all its abundance is a phrase in the Bible. And he had it. He had a simple life. He had a one-bedroom council flat, and he worked for 20 years, unpaid, in a local nursery, not children nursery, but horticultural nursery. Yeah. And I used to see him when I was picking my daughter up from school, and he was always whistling, and he would always tell me just how wonderful life was. And to me, I've always carried Jimmy around in my heart and in my thinking, he's not a one-off. So, and I could relate many stories of people who have turned their lives around and dealt with their addictions. And for so many other people we've worked with, it was addictions that was their Achilles heel. And once you've dealt with the addictions properly, not by giving people more or different drugs, but actually helping them to achieve recovery and abstinence, and supporting them to sustain recovery and abstinence, and helping them to find employment and training, then we can begin to have some optimism that we can end rough sleeping. But we still have to go back to see why so many people are getting addicted. Why are people leaving mental health hospitals to being no fix about it, or the prisons, for example?
Absolutely. I was just going to mention the prison cohort as well, leaving with, 20 quid to help them out. And domestic violence, we can't forget that either. You know, but these are systemic social problems, and the rough sleeping is the very end of that journey, isn't it? But there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in order to fix that. And look, 40 million is a start, but that's all it is.
It's on top of the 3.6 billion that Starmer announced. But I wasn't confident that would go in the right direction. Over the last 40 years, I've seen so many initiatives and so many hundreds of millions of pounds being spent, and we don't seem to have made that much progress. Yes, we've got some more good services, but we're only scratching the surface. And can I just go back to the point you just made about violence in the home and abuse in the home and people ending up on the street? We did a survey once with people asking them to tell us about their first night on the street. And one of the things that absolutely shocked us, that many people, imagine if you or I ended up on the street tonight. It would be so traumatic. I'd be terrified.
Yeah, me too.
But I'd still be terrified. You know? But the thing that surprised us was so many people who we spoke to had no recollection of their first night on the street. It's because the street was preferable to the hell that they had come from in their homes, whether it was sexual abuse, violence, domestic violence, etc. So that was something
that is shocking. Andy, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you. Although I remind you of Jimmy, thank you very, very much indeed. Andy Winter, their former Brighton councillor and former, retired now, chief executive of the Brighton Housing Trust. Quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and just a reminder that coming up at the top of the hour it is Ed Weisman. He's going to be joining us to go through the papers. But this story that actually came to light late last night, a Russian warship conducted a rare live-fire weapons exercise 46 miles, just 46 miles off the coast, off the UK coast near Plymouth yesterday. The 30-minute drill took place in international waters and coincided with the first day of Andy Burnham's tenure as Prime Minister. Well, before firing, the Russian vessel notified the shadowing Royal Navy patrol ship, HMS Tyne, requesting it to move to a safe distance, which it then did. Well, the new Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, speaking to the Global Combat Air Programme, branded Russia's actions as performative and irresponsible for carrying out live-firing exercises off the UK coast. Pretty wishy-washy words, I would say, from our new Defence Secretary. So let's get an idea of what this actually means. We're discussing this now with Max Hess, who's a geopolitical analyst and author of Economic War, Ukraine and the Global Conflict Between Russia and the West. Max, good to see you again. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Were you disappointed by Wes Streeting's response, or was that about the right tone?
I do think he struck about the right tone. You know, this is not an incident worth blowing out of proportions. The Russians are used to doing this kind of demonstrative action. It's frankly childish, and it's intended to send a signal to the new government here. It doesn't really signal a change to the governance of the English Channel or to the security questions that are there, but it does highlight an ongoing development, which has been these additional Russian warship deployments to waters just off the English coast. Ever since the UK and prior to that, France began cracking down on Russian shadow vessel shipping. through those channels. And that's a real key question for the future of sanctions policy. We certainly shouldn't let ourselves be deterred by something frankly so childish, but it does highlight just how live an issue this is going to be for the new government.
Yeah, you make a couple of points there. First of all, the idea that Russia has said you shouldn't look into the timing of this. This is purely coincidental, and nobody believes that, right?
No, yeah, that's complete nonsense. You know, the Russians will say that all the time, deny, 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 is sort of the modus operandi, but it is a very clear signal and one that is unmistakable.
And the other point you make is what I was going to come to, and that is this is not the first time that we've had an issue with a Russian ship. Of course, we had in the Channel a mere couple of weeks ago that they appeared to be shooting close to or at just a personal yacht. And so they are encroaching more and more and closer and making louder noises towards us.
Yes, that is certainly the case, but they are doing so in response to an effective series of policing actions that began late in Keir Starmer's administration, perhaps far too late, but that really come as an attempt coordinated with France and other European allies to crack down on the Russian shadow fleet. And while Russia is so clearly violating sanctions and attempting to sail that illicit fuel through the English Channel, I think it's important that the UK continues to demonstrate that additional economic costs will be borne for Russia as its war in Ukraine continues. And of course, the government has signaled that all other support for Ukraine is full steam ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Russia said today as well, wasn't it? That they were disappointed, or they can see now that then there's not going to be any change under Andy Burnham. That fulsome support that he's given to Ukraine was, you know, part of this as well.
Yes, and you know that has been something that I think the Russians are realizing, that whether it be someone on the slightly more to the left in the Labour Party and hoping that some of those Corbynite tendencies of being soft on Russia would come back is something that it has given up on. It's also given up on that amongst the Trump administration increasingly, as Trump has come out and spoken more of support for Ukraine, meeting with Zelensky at the NATO summit earlier this month. And you know, one of the bits that I think shows how far this is spreading is it was sort of missed in Nigel Farage's resignation statement come by-election announcement earlier this month. But even in that speech, he also spoke about recognizing the threat from Russia, a very large change to his past positions.
Absolutely, and I did want to just mention that about the US, because we're hearing less and less from Donald Trump about his great friend Vladimir Putin. We're hearing less and less from him about that whole, actually, even peace. He seems to have got bored with that idea, and he doesn't seem to be concentrating. I mean, I know he's got Iran going on, but still, his great thing was he was going to end the Russia-Ukraine war in day one, and now he's even stopped talking about his best buddy.
Well, yes, you know, Trump has really moved away from last August's so-called spirit of Anchorage, as the Russians like to dub it, following his meeting with Putin there, where he hoped to try to get this reset moving forward. It's true that Donald Trump likes winners, and Ukraine has had a lot of developments turn in its favor, including its long-range drone strikes targeting into Russia. But that's also important for the Middle Eastern conflict. Ukraine is the most battle-hardened country in terms of regular missile and drone strikes because of Russia's ongoing warfare, now into its fifth year. And that technology, that know-how, and that experience is increasingly valuable to the United States and other allies. You know, I think there are some signs talks will still continue, but just a few weeks ago, the Russians were talking about welcoming Witkoff and Kushner, Trump's two sort of diplomatic actors who at least attempted to negotiate with the Iranians. Now we have reports in the U.S. that Kash Patel, the FBI director, is going, but he is not taken as a particularly serious figure within Washington, and I think speaks to the likelihood we won't see any progress.
Yeah, it is an interesting, now that Vladimir has some cards
Yes,
that Donald Trump wants. How quickly he can pivot. When we look at Russia again, I mean, it seems to me to be counterintuitive for them to have carried out that live firing exercise just off the British coast, when there's a big conversation going on in the country now, trying to persuade the public that we have to spend more on defence, which will persuade people that we need to spend more on defence. You know, is there a possibility that Russia's attitude at the moment is, to use a military term, they're shooting themselves in the foot a bit? Because it's just encouraging Europe and the rest of us to spend more against him.
You know, I think that is a particularly apt analogy to use in this case. You know, what I would say, though, is it's important to bear in mind that Vladimir Putin is a particularly conspiratorial figure and has grown increasingly conspiratorial in his thinking over the last few years, you know, made famous by those long meeting tables he had during the COVID crisis, even refusing to meet with his own generals. And then we know from intelligence leaks and reporting how much time he spends in his country home, Dasha, and in other secure residencies kind of away from things. But in that Russian conspiratorial mindset, Britain plays a particularly large role. You know, Russian television often talks about British intelligence sort of being behind any ill that befalls Russia and immediately blaming the UK on that. Some of that obviously goes back to Cold War era thinking, but, you know, just because it may seem outdated to us, speaking here in the UK and aware of our defense challenges and our relatively restrained foreign policy that we had with Russia, at least prior to 2022, and in particular prior to the initial Russian invasion in 2014, doesn't mean that reflects thinking within the Kremlin.
How secure is Vladimir Putin? Because you can't help but notice, even though they're trying to tell us different, that the Russians are turning against this idea of war more and more so. If you can keep it brief, but I'm just interested as to what you think the Russians think of Vladimir Putin at the moment.
Sure. You know, we do see anecdotal evidence and a little bit from what public polling that is heavily state-controlled that the costs of the war are increasingly being felt by the Russian population. But right now, there's no power center to meaningfully challenge him. The last one was in 2023 and collapsed in the Prigozhin putsch. So as much as I hope that would be the case, and I believe that the Russian people can advocate for change in the long run on their own end, right now I don't think it's something that should figure into our own defensive foreign policy planning.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you, Max. Max Hess there, geopolitical analyst and author of Economic War, Ukraine and the Global Conflict Between Russia and the West. Right, stay where you are because Ed Wiseman is next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight is your chance to talk back. And I do want to talk to you about this whole issue of homelessness and rough sleeping. And I've got a really good message here from Keith, actually. And actually, Keith, this is exactly the sort of thing that I want to talk about. He says, my younger brother worked for a courier company and he was promoted from a job in the south to one in the Midlands. His rental flat fell through, so he spent 3 months in a tent moving every time a dog walker found him. Totally illegal, but it's what he needed to do to keep a job. Probably outside rough sleeping, as you're discussing the issue tonight. There are many people sleeping rough tonight. But any experience of rough sleeping is exactly what I want to talk about. I mean, I also want to talk about the complications of a lot of people who are rough sleeping and how, really, with the best will in the world, Andy Burnham is not going to be able to fix this problem, because the problems, the rough sleeping is the end result of so many other things going wrong, that you have to stop those other things going wrong in order to stop rough sleeping. So I think it feels like he's putting the cart before the horse, in a sense, because the rough sleeping is, like I said, the end result of domestic violence, of mental health issues, of addiction, of suddenly losing your job, all of these things. Those are the things that need to be fixed, and those things fixed will fix rough sleeping. So that is not the thing that needs fixing, if you know what I mean. It's too simplistic. So I do want to talk about anybody's experience of having to sleep out on the streets, but also homelessness in general, because homelessness is a major issue and becoming even more with the cost of living crisis in this country. There are people who are one paycheck away from being homeless, being out on the street. And anybody who rents knows how that feels. Okay, I know there are laws and there are protections, but if you fall behind 1 month on your mortgage or on your rent, trying to catch up on that, trying to make that up is incredibly difficult. So do there need to be more safety nets involved for people because once they're out on the street, it's an even bigger issue to fix. But because of private landlords, nobody's keen on, of course, and I understand, having somebody in their property who isn't paying rent. So how do we fix that issue? How do we fix all of those issues that lead to rough sleeping? I think it's a nice thing to say. It's a great soundbite to say, I'm going to end rough sleeping, but you can't, because those other problems, those other issues are still going to be there. So you might get one rough sleeper off the street and into care and into property, but there's another one following along right behind them, because that domestic violence hasn't been fixed, that mental health problem that's endemic in this country has not been fixed, addictions haven't been fixed. So you're still going to, they're just going to keep adding to the problem. There is no end to it unless you end the issues that lead to rough sleeping. And that's why I'm cynical about Andy Burnham's pledge to end rough sleeping. Look, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a brilliant thing to want to do. But I also think it shows a naivety and a complete lack of understanding of what leads people to end up on the streets, which is phenomenal, because I would have imagined he'd have talked to all sorts of experts when he was trying to do the same thing in Manchester. So I don't know where the intelligence gap is there, but there definitely is one. So I want to hear from you if you've ever been close to being homeless, if you've ever been, you know somebody who's rough slept, if it's just like Keith's brother there who ended up for 3 months living rough. That is a nightmare beyond my reckoning. I can't cope with that. I really can't. I can't even bear to think about it. So give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you're an ex-prisoner who experienced that, somebody who was in the military. How did you end up where you ended up? How did that happen to you? There was quite a famous newsreader, actually. I read his book. I knew him. Can't remember his name now. Who in Brighton ended up on the streets living rough after a drinking problem that saw him. Ed Mitchell, thank you. He was a really nice guy, actually, but he ended up sleeping rough. It was a superb book. And I interviewed him about it, and like I said, I knew it. We kind of all sort of vaguely know each other or know of each other in this business. And that was an amazing fall, you know, from being one of the best-known newsreaders, earning a decent wage, to living rough on the streets of Brighton. Extraordinary. It can happen to anybody. And that's why I want to talk about it with you at midnight. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. And I also have what I think is some of the most exciting personal news that I can share with you. And I will share that with you at midnight. You know what it is. They all know what it is. They all looked at me and went, what's that then? You know what it is. It's incredibly exciting. Well, I think it's exciting. And I've got pictures to show you as well, just to make you wonder what it is. So all of that is coming up at midnight. But right now, even more exciting is the very hirsute Ed Wiseman.
Here I am.
A transport and travel journalist who is so incredibly butch that Pete Kegsbreath would not be asking you to test your testosterone.
No, absolutely not.
Not. He's grown a beard in a week.
The speed at which
The speed.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
So manly.
That's possibly the extent of my manliness.
Oh, right,
I use
okay.
it entirely on my chin.
You've used it all up
Absolutely,
on your chin. Well,
yeah.
I think it's worth it.
And razor blades.
Yeah.
It's those two. That's how I sort of perform my gender. Really. It's just by growing a beard.
Well, I think, look, you might as well, because that is the most obvious sign, right?
I think so.
What have you done?
I just unplugged myself. Sorry about that.
Unplugged himself.
As my sheer brute force, my sheer brute strength, means that I can't even keep my microphone plugged in. Aside from that, how have you been?
I've been very well. Yeah, I have not been growing a beard.
No, I've noted that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have, just incredibly slowly.
I'm just a very good with a razor.
Yeah, you are, just very stealthily, just while no one's looking.
I do it in the breaks. Homelessness and this pledge to end rough sleeping. I don't want to sound like I'm being, Debbie Downer on the whole idea.
However,
your
point absolutely stands. I think it's like trying to treat a hangover without, countenancing how much you drank the day before.
Yeah.
It's sort of very much closing the door after the horse.
Yeah, it's saying this is the cure to a hangover, when the cure to a hangover is not drinking.
I do
right?
think I'm slightly more optimistic than you are in that I think that initiatives to facilitate people finding homes at face value is probably valuable. I know that there are lots of charities and organisations that do that, even though it doesn't treat the problems as you describe. No. There is still scope for more opportunities for people who are finding themselves on the streets for the first time to access services. I'm sure that's what he will.
But that will just grow and grow, won't it?
Yeah.
'Cause like I said, we've got early release of prisoners now, so we've got more and more prisoners coming out early, and we've got more and more prisoners out on the streets who get 20 quid or whatever it is when they first leave, and see you, bye.
Yeah, good luck.
And they don't seem to be helped very much. Yeah. Domestic violence, which has not been cured. I just can't help but think that you pluck one person off the street and they'll be replaced by two others.
Oh, possibly even more.
So how do you fix it?
I think that's the thing. You do have to do both. You have to do both. And I think you've obviously worked a lot with the armed forces, and I'm sure that there is a pretty consistent conveyor belt between serving in the army and ending up on the street.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Such a clear route, and if we are involved in any conflicts coming up, there's obviously going to be a big glut of people who find themselves on the streets as well. But I think you probably do have to apply some energy to both.
Listen, I think it's a good thing to want to try and do it.
It's a crowd pleaser as well. Everybody wants that.
Yeah,
Curiously, I think in London in particular, we do have a much much smaller homelessness problem than lots of cities in Europe. As someone who travels quite a lot around Europe, it's striking.
I think you're right.
Get off the Eurostar at Brussels, and the level of homelessness visible.
And Paris. Well.
Not to say that all homelessness has to be rough sleeping. There is a degree.
There's other types,
but I think that the way that the city deals with it is tangibly different to a non-homeless person, to a housed person.
But you say that, but I mean, there was a woman on the street just down the road from where I live, who was clearly in distress and was clearly homeless, and was clearly an addict of some description, and was also in danger of hurting herself because she was just lunging in front of traffic, and it's quite a fast road, like, you know, even 20 miles an hour. It leads up to the A40, so there's a lot of cars on that road. And I thought, well, who do I call?
What is the emergency service for that?
Is there a homeless... There should be a phone number. I thought at the time, like a local council phone number that's up on bus shelters or something, where you can, if you see somebody in distress like that, that you can then go, oh, OK, and then call them and say, I have a homeless person here, please come and help them. And I felt absolutely helpless.
You're supposed to call the police.
I called the police, but then, you know, there's probably about 4 police officers in Shepherd's Bush. 3
now, because one of them has to go and
sort out somebody who's
hospital.
Exactly that.
But I think the police are consistently complaining that is an increasing part of their workload.
It shouldn't be them.
Who does community care fall to? And I think that's the problem with the NHS as well. There are people occupying beds who should be being cared for elsewhere, but the only institution that will care for them is the hospital. And without any halfway between, you know, a white picket fence and 2 children and a Labrador and being a ward of the state, it feels like there are so many missing links. And the police are trying, not particularly good at it.
And it is not fair on them. When my own brother, my younger brother, was particularly in a very bad state. He's now got alcohol dementia. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. So when he was heavily drinking and his mental health was terrifying, and it was completely off the charts. It was the police that had to go and pick him up, and as you absolutely rightly say, he would be found sleeping. He'd get lost. He couldn't remember how to get home because of the dementia, and they would find him sleeping on a tube station platform or you know, on the side of the road. And it was always the police that had to pick him up and take him to a hospital, and then, as you say, wait with him. And I always felt incredibly bad for them. That they were having to do that, because it felt not like a waste of resources. I'm not saying that picking up and helping my brother was a waste of resources, of course not, but it felt like it was the wrong resource that was being used when the police were supposed to be dealing with crime. And I always felt really bad about that, and felt that there has to be a better way of helping people who are rough sleeping. And there's a lot of people as well that will think that rough sleepers are drunk, when in fact they have got this alcohol dementia through drinking for many years.
Or lots of other things.
And lots of other things as well, but it isn't necessarily that. But I find it really upsetting. I think because of my brother's experience and the documentary I made many years ago on rough sleepers in London, and interviewing them, chatting to them, and figuring out how many different types of story had led them to being on the street.
Well, as you say, it might just be 3 bad decisions.
Was
there an MP who wrote about that as well? Was there somebody who sort of realised that you only had to...
There was somebody, it was 3 bad...
Your three decisions away from...
ending up on the streets. But the story about Ed Mitchell... That, I don't know if you read that book. It was an amazing book. It really was. And it was just so stark how, you know, this well-known, well-paid person literally ended up sleeping on a bench in Brighton and having to battle with his addiction issues and all. It was absolutely fascinating, really interesting. And the proof that it can happen to anybody.
Well, it can happen to anybody from any beginning.
Yeah.
You know, I think that should give everybody pause to think about. But realistically, everybody knows that on some level, an increasing number of people are having to.
They're finding out.
In this country, heat or eat is something that is
but also
a reality.
Rent, you know, and if Andy Burnham brings in a land value tax, which will be passed immediately on to anybody renting. They're stuffed.
He's also mentioned all sorts of rent reform. I mean, he's mentioned a lot of stuff. It's a bit of a dice roll at this point.
It is a bit of a dice roll.
What actually is going to land. But I think homelessness and rough sleeping is such a visual proxy for how well a country looks after its people.
I agree. But it's also too easy for us to see that he hasn't fixed it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because it can't be fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a bit of it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It can improve, and I think the reforms that took place in the 90s and 2000s really did change the face of homelessness in London.
And we did manage to help people during COVID, and we do.
It is possible.
It is possible to do. But the problem with it is not just a roof over somebody's head. There are many cases, and again, I spoke to some of these people who had been given a property but didn't know how to run it, didn't know how to live in it. It ended up being a drugs den, or you know, people taking advantage of.
Well, you're much more likely to be victimised again.
Exactly. And then they were chucked out again onto the street. So it's not just a case of going, right, there's a roof over your head, crack on with it.
It's not a mechanical problem.
Yeah.
Homeless makes it sound
like it just needs
very
a home
literal. Well,
to
here
fix
you go.
it.
Here's your home, and actually, it's a
and
much.
that fixes it.
There's more rot going on there.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great shame, and we talk about it in such reductive ways, myself included. I think it's a really complicated social.
Incredibly complicated.
And I think, but as you point out, when you're talking about your brother's experience, it often absorbs acute resource. It absorbs acute healthcare and acute crime fighting.
An enormous amount of money. And I mean, again, he's my brother and I love him. So, but the cost of his the slide into alcoholism and dementia, I can't bear this. Millions.
Yeah.
For one person, because he had to stay in a hospital for so long, and an enormous amount of money a week. First of all, to try and balance him out, and then because the social care wasn't set up for him, he was also. I had to sign a thing to keep him locked up for a while, for his mental health and for his safety. So all sorts of deprivation of liberty. That's what it was. So I had to deprive him of his liberty for quite some time, and that took place in hospital.
Yeah.
So I was aware of all this extraordinary expense, and just thinking, God, you multiply that over and over, and actually, is there a better way? Could there have been a better way to fix this problem before it got? And the answer is yes.
Oh, probably thousands.
Yeah.
But mind you, there is always a discrepancy in how much we take from the state. I was thinking, those audacious mountain rescues. You're a hiker or whatever, and suddenly you require the use of a helicopter and a dozen people, and the amount of money that absorbs to then put you back together in a hospital might be significantly more than you will ever contribute to the exchequer. I think it's. I mean, and as someone who's ridden motorcycles as well, I'm conscious.
You're conscious of that.
That if you crash a motorbike, you might be absorbing quite a lot of cash. I think there are often it's quite very appropriate to be spending money on individuals to keep them safe and to care for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is quite striking when that's taking resource away from a policeman who should be patrolling.
Absolutely.
Or a hospital who
the bed that my brother was in for 8-10 weeks or whatever.
Who else could have been using that bed? That's not to say he shouldn't have been in the hospital bed, but is there a cottage hospital? Is there a community hospital?
Absolutely.
Does it need to be Guy's or St Thomas's or a pavement?
And that's where it was, funnily enough. Guys and St Thomas's.
Exactly.
For some of it, and then Lewisham Hospital for the rest of it. But I mean, it seems to me like we react instead of proact.
But that's just the British way, I think, at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly seems to be.
Because it's very difficult to justify continually spending money on proactive.
And yet it's cheaper than reacting.
Of course it is, but it doesn't, that almost doesn't matter. I think...
Like putting seatbelts in cars has proactively saved millions, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was a great shout, and I think everybody thinks that was a good wheeze.
Yeah.
But I think we just have a political aversion to maintenance,
True.
whatever
It's
it
very
is.
true.
And I think that's true on the local government as well as national government. Everybody wants to cut a ribbon on a new initiative, but actually what is needed
The
is
long, boring
it's the long,
journey.
boring, we just need to repaint this,
Yeah.
we need to rebuild, we need to just do the boring legwork. And I see that. You see it in I'm sure your borough over in the west as well does the same thing. They'll open a brand new whizzy centre, but the old one should have just been painted in 1997 and then 2006, and then it wouldn't need to be torn. There's so much waste.
After it.
It's so wasteful.
It's so true.
And I think the same is true of these proactive or mechanisms that should be proactive. There should be community hospitals that are ready to absorb these people who don't need acute care, but who do need care. And I think there should be much more emphasis placed on the incredibly unglamorous work of dealing with people who have alcohol problems before they wind up on a shop doorstep and before they become an acute problem.
Yeah, and I mean, it went on for years, this whole issue with my brother, and he ended up in Bedlam, actually.
Oh, really?
So he was at the mental health institute in Bedlam, which is an enormously expensive mental health facility. But he was there until he wasn't, and there wasn't a tapering off.
It was just off you go.
Yeah, it was like, okay, so you've got through this acute phase, which was absolutely horrific, actually, but got through that and then gone, just sent home. And again, you think, well, he's going to be back.
Yeah. Instantly.
Instantly, at that enormous cost.
And that isn't a problem with Bedlam. I'm sure they were doing their acute
work very well.
It's just there is nothing for the... And as a society, I suppose we do prioritise getting a potentially dangerous person off the street, somebody who's behaving unpredictably or erratically. That is...
He was a harm to himself, not
a harm to himself, but still people think, yikes, what's going on?
Absolutely, yeah.
But then when people are just very sad and hopeless, that's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
I know.
And there isn't the energy required to look after that.
It's been a fascinating journey with my brother to learn so much about social services, the hospital, because if it's not in your wheelhouse, you don't know anything about it.
No, exactly.
It's like you not having a kid yet, you don't know about school holidays.
Not a clue.
Right, so it's like, or when schools break
Suddenly
up.
it's very loud,
and
then around
or
September
trying to find
time,
a school place, and then suddenly when you've got a kid, you'll be like, oh my, why didn't anybody tell me about it?
It costs 3 times as much to go to Centre Parks in August.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's like when you take a journey into a world that you're not sure of.
Even in any other medical situation that you find yourself in, even incredibly mild, you very quickly find the stress points of the system.
Absolutely.
Some things work incredibly well, and then you go into the next room and it's just a horror show.
Complete chaos.
Not because of what they've done, just because a link, a block has been taken out of the Jenga tower of care, and suddenly everything is incredibly unstable. Yeah. But you don't realise it.
You don't realise it until you're in it. And it really is like that. It's quite shocking. So we're going to be talking about that at midnight. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Quick break, and we're back with the papers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me the fabulous Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. The papers, let's have a look at the Telegraph to start with. Burnham backtracks on income tax giveaway. Andy Burnham has rowed back on plans to raise the tax-free personal allowance after being accused of announcing unfunded tax cuts. That was the big one that we were being persuaded
It was
we were
one of the
going to
big
get.
ones. One of the big ones.
Well, what difference does anything he's going to do make if he doesn't do that?
He said too many things. I got the impression he didn't think he was going to get it to begin with, and he was just saying things for a while.
Yeah, but then I think nobody showed him the actual moths flying out of the cash tin.
Exactly. And I think this is a bit like what you were saying about the homelessness and the rough sleeping problem. You can pledge to solve something, but if it is unfunded, it will always be held against you. It will always be a mark down, and that's what happened with. I mean, that's what. Surely he's been paying attention for the past year.
Well, he must know that the same financial constraints are there that Keir Starmer had. If Keir Starmer could have afforded to lift the tax brackets by even £1,000, he would have done.
Well, I mean, maybe Burnham thinks that North Sea oil is going to unlock.
But it's not, is
vast
it?
Wealth.
I was reading today actually about North Sea oil. And people keep saying, no, we don't make money from the oil because obviously that belongs to the oil companies who then sell it onto the international market, and we have to buy it at the price that everybody else pays, no matter what. But the licences and the income tax from workers on these things is where we make the money. Well, apparently the licences are not really that, because they're not that great. And on one of the oil fields, there are only 22 people working because it's all been automated now.
It's all computers.
So it's all AI and automation. So I'm not sure if they're being paid enough, 22 people, to fill the coffers enough to do anything.
Judging by sort of some of the pubs in Aberdeen, I think they're doing okay.
They are doing okay, but not 22 of them.
No, or maybe they are just
rich.
Maybe they're drinking for 10 each. I don't know. I think that no amount of lager will be purchased that will offset the amount that it costs us. Talking about long-term problems.
Talk about long-term problems, and maybe, you know, Andy Burnham was a tad idealistic maybe before he got the job.
Possibly, but then who isn't? Maybe we need an idealist. Maybe we need some, you know, hope. Somebody to just say...
Yeah, but hope without action is pointless.
No, or hope with completely misguided action is also pointless.
Yeah, but like £3 saving on our electricity this year.
Yeah. I think I think it would be great if VAT could be cut entirely from electric car charging. I think that would help a lot of people.
That would help a lot.
I think there's a lot of transport, obviously. I think there's lots of transport-related things that would be very interesting for him to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very slow... It would be lovely to think that he will do one thing and it will help everybody in one fell swoop. But realistically, it's going to be the £3 off the electricity bill.
Well, dropping
£2 off
that on petrol and diesel would have done it. Would have helped everybody.
Yeah,
that would have helped literally people without cars. Yeah.
And I think this is the problem. It becomes. I mean, oil is such an important thing. The way that we get around and the way that goods gets around. It's. I mean, it's the least interesting part of my job, but unfortunately the most important. So.
Yeah. The other story on the top here is Telegraph. PC Harper's killers set for early release. The pair who dragged the officer for over a mile are amongst those eligible to be freed by Labour. This will not go down well. I wonder if our new Prime Minister will step in.
I don't know what powers he particularly has. But I think that there are, and there have been quite rightly, reviews of sentences recently, some of which have been quite high profile. And I think this is something that we don't talk about particularly, is how much this matters to a society as well. What should happen to people who commit these crimes, and what it says about the rest of us. I think how well it reflects on us if those sentences are either particularly harsh or particularly light. And maybe there is This feels like something that should be discussed.
It really does. I mean,
think.
this copper killed on duty, wasn't he? We dragged behind a getaway car.
It feels like a lot longer ago, but it was
2019.
It was only was it 2019 or
2019?
20? I thought it was 2020.
They were jailed for 13 years in 2020.
Yes.
So it was probably 2019 that it happened, because it wouldn't have been in court. Thames Water brings in a hosepipe ban. There's a shocker.
Yeah, there are a few people out with hose pipes this morning. I thought, what have you heard?
What do you know?
Sort of first thing in the morning.
How? Oh, I want to swear. Dare they? When the leaks in London, the billions of gallons of water that are spreading across the Uxbridge Road currently in 2 different places, and they're telling me I can't use a hose pipe.
No, you have to go back and
What
forth.
the hell what difference does that make? And plus, I can take the hose pipe, put it in a watering can, switch the hose pipe off and water, and then do the same thing again.
Yeah. It's pretty notional, and there are lots of things that are absorbing a lot more water than people's hose pipes. I don't really follow the hose pipe thing. I mean, I think I'm a bit of.
I'll be out at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm a hose pipe ban truther. I don't think it's going to do a single thing.
It's not going to do a thing. Well, there's the leaks and
there's leaks,
I mean, the gallons of water that they waste every day.
Consumption, yeah. And I think who has it?
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I don't know very many people who have gardens, and the people who I do know have gardens have such small gardens that they don't have hose pipes.
Just thimble.
Exactly. That will do. I'll just grow my. It's more of a sort of moss patch, really. But no, I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I've spent absolutely zero effort trying to find out whether a hose pipe is that much worse. I think sprinklers are
probably
a sort of a display of
probably filling a swimming pool or a hot tub or they might be disastrous.
But then make it a hot tub ban. Make it a swimming pool ban.
Yeah.
But if you've already got a swimming pool, your swimming pool's going to be full.
Exactly.
It's only if you're filling an above ground one outside.
Yeah. I did top up my hot tub today.
Before or after the ban?
Before.
Before the ban, just before.
The ban comes in on Thursday.
Oh, does it? Oh, it wasn't immediate.
Oh,
that gives everybody free rein to spray one another with gay abandon in their gardens for several days.
Why not?
I think they should have brought it in as a surprise. Stop hosing right now.
Right this second, otherwise we're gonna shoot you in your living room.
Or come with a super
No, I mean it's ridiculous. Fix the leaks and then I might listen to you. Otherwise, bog off. Literally.
Did you see at the top how to prepare a teenager to take the throne as well? That could be quite an interesting feature.
I've never had to do that.
No, I've never had to do that either. But I mean, you know what the Telegraph sort of aspirational readers are like.
They all think they've got little princes and princesses.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Or they're sitting there in the palace thinking, it's just in time.
God, blimey, I didn't know that.
Thanks for this.
Thanks, Telegraph.
For this 7-point listicle on how to do this. This has really helped.
Oh, we've got to take a break. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me, Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist.
Hello.
Thank you for not running out in the break. The Guardian, Burnham implores Cabinet to find ways to tackle cost of living crisis. I'm sure, I kind of get the feeling that the other Cabinet might have been trying to do the same thing, so we'll wait and see what he comes up with.
Or maybe they hadn't thought of it.
Maybe they hadn't thought of it. The other story, as a transport and travel guy, always wear a seatbelt. Now, this isn't in cars. This
Also
is in
true.
aircraft. Always wear a seatbelt in a car.
You should wear a seatbelt if you can find one.
If you can find one. But in your airplane seat,
Yes.
I do always wear a seatbelt.
I'm team seatbelt in
Yeah,
aircraft.
yeah. But this is after the guy was nearly sucked out of the plane, and it's an inch of plastic between us and out there.
Yeah. And
This
out there sucks.
Well,
quite
you get
literally
sucked into the
in this
engine.
case. Yeah, that is one of the problems.
I told you I was I was meant to be on a flight once. Oh God, I always forget it. It was from Hawaii to New Zealand.
Oh, yes, you said.
Yeah, and the door got blown out, and people were sucked out through
Yeah.
the engines. And I was getting drunk in the bar, having been paid $200 for not going.
200, yeah, exactly. Win-win. That's what they call
Win-win.
that. No, I think if you're in an aircraft and you are sitting down, you should have your seatbelt on. Not just because you might get sucked out of the side if it...
But how did that window break? I mean, how does that happen?
Just...
It's under such tension.
How does anything bad go wrong? It's just, most of the time it doesn't. How many flights are there? There are thousands and thousands of flights take off from the UK all the time, and they don't go pop. But occasionally, because of the way that the aircraft is pressurised, something can go.
Because it's under such tension, isn't it? Then it just blew out.
Yeah.
And then, but they're quite small windows. He must have been. He's quite a small man.
Yes.
His shoulders would have stopped him.
Yeah,
surely.
maybe that's the other life hack. Don't be svelte and snake hips.
Put weight on.
Yeah,
if you're going to
exactly.
fly.
So you'll just clog up the window.
Yeah,
like a
and
bun.
block it for everyone else.
Yeah, everybody can go about their
Because his
day.
wife was having to hold on to his legs.
I wonder how effective that was being.
Probably more performative than
That's true love.
Than
I think. No, it's an upsetting story, and I think it's one of the many things that are very unlikely to go wrong if you don't put your seatbelt on. You're much more likely to just injure yourself in turbulence. You just hit your head on the overhead lockers, and that's unpleasant, but less life-threatening. The number of people who've been sucked out of plane windows is incredibly small. I think he's the only one to have been partially sucked out and then pulled back in and survived as a passenger. The same thing happened to a pilot.
Oh yeah, it says and survived.
Yeah,
that's a key.
But then people have fallen to the ground and survived. Lots of very odd things that have occurred. It depends. It's a bit of a what do you count as being sucked out of the aircraft if the aircraft sort of starts disintegrating around you. I think there are lots of horror stories. For the most part, flying is incredibly safe. You can make it even safer by putting your seatbelt on.
Yeah, just
keep
your seatbelt on.
I think so.
I totally always keep.
If there is a seatbelt where you are sitting, I think you should put it on. And I'm
Anywhere.
I'm a hopeless conformist in that regard. But
have you got one on your sofa?
Yeah, I should do. I should have a 3-point harness or like one of those racing sets.
God, talking of harnesses, did you see that story the other day in America about these 8 people being caught on a roller coaster going up really high, and they were upside down, lying
just dangling,
and the fire brigade got a ladder that they use for high-rise buildings, and they were up there and undoing them and
just plopping off. Yeah. And that is Murphy's Law, isn't it? If the roller coaster stops, it's going to be halfway around.
It won't stop at the bottom.
It's never done that. It physically will never do that.
But terrifying. I mean, that is my just one of. I mean, I have many nightmares. That's one of them. The Sun newspaper, and because there's now been a charge, we can't really go into this story. But the Widdicombe horror, Anne hit 21 times with a hammer. That's in inverted commas. So we can't really, because it's not been confirmed by anybody. So officially. So that's the Sun newspaper.
Same with the Independent.
Same with the Independent. That's the top half there, with a drawing of Joshua Kerry, who has been charged now, and then the story underneath: Trump furious at Foreign Secretary Rolf Miliband. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, didn't. He doesn't like him because Ed Miliband has been outspoken against him.
But Miliband is such an unthreatening character in politics. It seems.
Well, he's like Gromit. No, Wallace.
Yeah,
Wallace and Gromit.
he is very much like that.
He looks like him.
And I think he's not one odd person to be your enemy.
Yes.
Politically.
Yeah. Like you said, you just flick him and
quite a sort of genial sort of tree hugger.
I would have thought so, yeah. The Daily Mail is talking about who's going to pay the bill for Andy's largesse. I think we know the answer to that. That'll be us.
Yes, collectively.
We'll have to pay that bill. Again, the Metro going with Burnham's power play to cut bills, and Whittaker murder. Accused was in court. I think I thought he was in court today, but it may be tomorrow. Tuesday as opposed to Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, he appeared Tuesday.
But not for, presumably just to...
No, just for
just stay where he is and...
Yeah, to the... I suppose to get... just to acknowledge him and charge him.
And I think on the left of the Metro as well, I think Holly Willoughby.
Yeah.
After kidnap plot, I don't care what fans think of me. I think there is a conversation to be had, and we started having it a week or two ago, about politicians being protected, and I think MI5 has told them to get safe rooms, which is slightly meek advice.
It's like very middle class as well. But how many people have got a spare room they can turn into a safe room?
Exactly. And what are the tax implications? What are the capital gains implications? No, I think there is a conversation to be had about famous people and...
Yeah, poor Holly.
Nutters.
I mean, that was awful for her.
But she is not the only person who's experienced that. And I think that there are going to be violent and crazed people out there across the board, whether you're just famous and on television or you have a political belief that is ideologically
or just raise your head above any parapet.
Yeah, or even not. I mean, if in the same way that Trump doesn't like Ed Miliband, there's probably some random B-lister on a random daytime TV show who doesn't know that, like, he or she is at risk of some nutcase. Or, stalking can affect all sorts of people who are even nobodies, effectively. And I think that there is a conversation to be had in the age of the internet about what do we do about this? What are the why would people do... It's not the preserve of the internet age, but if you are a high-profile figure in the UK, or what should you do to protect yourself against these things?
I just think you keep it as low a personal profile as possible.
Don't let people know where you live, don't let...
I will talk about my life, but never specifics.
Yes.
Like, I've got a son, but not his name, not anything that you could identify him by. Or, I live in Shepherd's Bush, but I'm not going to tell you the road I live in. And I'm not on social media.
Not on social media. No,
so I keep it very, very low. There's very little out there about me if you Google me, and most of it that is out there is completely made up because there isn't anything else.
Yeah.
So, apparently I'm married and all of those things, which is...
Very rich and fabulously
very rich.
Well. So,
No, I am 35. Yes.
Do you ever worry about sort of jigsaw identification?
Yes, because it happened to me once, which is why I'm really careful about it. When my son was at a nursery school, and I'd given just over a couple of months. It was when I was on another radio station. I'd given out too much information. I'd given out that he was at a nursery, and it was in West London, and there was one other near a park, I think I might have said.
Okay, that narrows it down enough.
And that narrowed it down enough that when I went to pick him up, I said, what did he have for lunch today? And they said, well, we told you on the phone. And I said, you didn't tell me on the phone. And they said, no, you phoned, you called. And I said, I'm telling you, I didn't call you. So somebody had bothered to phone around quite a few nurseries to find out. But they didn't have his name. But they just said... it's Petrie Hosken, my son, and they just gave out the information.
probably a GDPR
and that was a long
breach
time. That was a long.
in these
Yeah, these days it would be.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, that was 20 odd years ago, more than 25, 26, 27, whatever years ago. So
you
it was
just
much
seeded
easier.
enough for them to join to join the dots.
So since then, it's been like, oof, got to be very careful.
Yeah. And you do have to be. I mean, you're a broadcaster, so it's a bit different. But I think in this day and age, many millions more people are effectively broadcasters. You know,
Absolutely, they are.
It's a different. You know, it's no longer even even in the 90s, the number of famous people who were regularly on TV was like thousands, whereas now you can build an audience. Potentially with absolutely
that's what
no
a lot
barrier.
of people are trying to do. They're trying to build. So I only say where I've been, not where I'm going.
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, I won't say, oh, I'm going out tonight, or I'm, going away this weekend. It'll be, oh, I went away last weekend.
But many people are not quite as coy as you.
Or as wised up to it, maybe.
Because they either haven't had the experiences that you have, or they...
Or they just don't think about it. They're so keen on building profile and getting people to notice them and know who they are. They give more and more information out about themselves, and that puts them at risk. It really does.
No, I agree.
We've got to take a break, but we'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me, Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist.
Hello.
The Times, Ed.
The Times.
What do you think? We've got Burnham there, signals cuts to pay for spending pledges. Cabinet told to find savings to fund promises on energy bills. Told his cabinet to take a hard look at their budget. Well, they're not going to take a pay cut, are they? They've just got a pay rise.
Yeah.
It takes them over 100 grand.
I think that is particularly galling to a lot of people.
Really galling.
But,
anyway.
Finding, my sort of slight bugbear in all of this is finding finding savings is much easier when you're in control of the expenditure, but everything is so aggressively outsourced in this country that there are so many people taking
they
slices.
can't do it. Yeah.
It's much more difficult to pull yourself up by the bootstraps when you aren't actually holding it.
Yeah, true.
I think it's, and I've been thinking, yeah, that's my.
But I'm sure they were looking for I think Andy Burnham thinks this is radical thinking, but so far it's kind of like, well, don't you think that's what the last lot were trying to do as well? Because they were told to find savings.
Yeah.
And they were trying to help with the cost of living. So I don't think I think he thinks this is all new. I know, I've got a great idea.
Yeah, let's spend less and spend more somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think the Thames Water will be I think that will be the interesting test. I think Thames Water will be.
I think he'll put it in special measures, but we won't be running it. I think we won't go as far as privatising, publicising.
Is there anything meaningful that he could do that would not incur a significant cost to the Exchequer? So either he won't do anything meaningful.
Yeah. I think it will just go into special. That's my theory, is that he'll just up the sanctions and the regulations around water.
Yeah.
And it will be seen as a part sort of government involvement.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll do anything.
No, of course not. I'm just saying what I think will.
Yeah,
I just don't think it'll achieve anything.
It was an analysis.
Yeah, it was an analysis rather than
fair enough.
The other story on the front there: obesity is rising much faster in the young than the old, leading to a surge in the number of women developing type 2 diabetes in their 20s and 30s.
What do you think that's about?
I don't know.
Is it lifestyle?
It could be lifestyle. It says 3% rise in the condition, which is strongly linked to obesity. However, amongst men and women who are older, the condition declined. I think it's lifestyle and having to buy cheap food and...
Cheap food, Petrie.
Cheap food.
I went to a Tesco Metro in Woolwich.
God, they're expensive now.
They're very expensive, and everything in there was bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't mean cheap as in lower price.
No,
I mean
cheaply made, expensively sold to you. But I was quite just like, because you know when you go into a shop and there's stuff that's like quite good, there's stuff that's bad for you. This was just all just incredibly depressing, and because it was the only shop really within walking distance of the prisons there and the courts, anybody who had anything to do with that quite significant source of employment in the area went there for lunch.
Bad food.
And you go, it's just, I think that is. The quality of food in this country we have access to great food as well, but there are these areas, these islands.
There are pockets,
where
and it's all just a fast food or shops like that selling.
But even fast food, even McDonald's is better than sort of
a
tepid hoisin duck wrap and some Wotsits and a Monster Energy, which is the meal. And it's not a criticism of anybody who's choosing those things, but just the provision is so different. And I live in quite a leafy, quite nice, very well-resourced part of town, and I get lots of lovely choices. But I think you only have to go out into Zone 6, and suddenly you're eating out of a petrol station if you're working in the offices opposite. And I think it's.
That's what I put it down to. I really do.
I mean, somebody much cleverer than I am has probably done a lot more research, and it's probably sort of.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's the quality. It's the quality of food that is at the lower end.
We shouldn't be like, because the availability of high quality food also exists, and we now have the ability to eat all sorts of wonderful things, but there isn't the money in it.
No.
It's much cheaper to
stack them high, sell them cheap,
exactly.
and get people addicted to them, which people are, and also, to the salt and the sugar.
Yeah, exactly, and probably other stuff in there as well. But I think if people will spend £4.50 on a wrap, there's no incentive in spending £3 on the ingredients for it when you can spend 40p, and people will still buy it because they kind of have to.
True.
I think it's. I think that's another. I don't know. I'm quite small government inherently, but I do feel like a regulation that somebody should ban selling just a loaf of bread full of sugar. Surely that's bad for you.
It's got to be.
Surely that isn't. That
but there isn't, like you said, there isn't the will, because it makes the money.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Just going to race through the last couple of papers, because the Daily Express was hit 21 times. The Daily Star with the same headline. And the Daily Mirror with the same headline as well. Prosecutor tells a ferocious attack on the 78-year-old ex-MP at remote home. Absolutely horrific way to go. Truly just devastating. Let's have a look. Oh, the I paper is going cost of living, cost of living, cost of living.
Yep.
As we know, we're going to get £3. £3.
What are you going to do with yours?
I don't know.
What does £3 get you these days?
It's a big commitment, isn't it? I'm going to have to think about that.
How much would that be in an ISA in 10 years?
Three quid over 6 months as well. So you've got to spread it out.
That's 50p a month.
Not even, yeah, just about.
I wonder. I mean, it's better. It is literally better than nothing.
It is. You're absolutely
But
right.
it's not.
But however, it's not that great. Do you want to know my exciting news?
I'm desperate to. Yeah.
You're desperate. You've been
sitting
waiting
through this past hour.
Yeah, just waiting to hear my exciting news. I'm a little bit of a gardener. Right. And I have, I've got grapes growing in my garden, lovely. I've got figs now growing in my garden, and I've had banana trees, which I planted. I planted one banana tree, a mother tree, and about nearly 5 years ago, I've got several. I've got quite a little forest now of trees, and I love them. I think I take care of them in the winter. I cut them down, I cut them back, I cover them in fleece and everything, because they're basically a grass, so that they don't get frozen in the winter. And I really do take care of them. And I was out in my garden earlier on today doing something, probably using a hose pipe before the ban, and I looked up at my banana tree. And this is what I saw. It is a bunch of bananas growing on my banana tree.
So it is.
Can you see it?
I can.
Sorry to those of you who can't see. This is literally a huge bunch of bananas growing on my banana tree, which is not meant to happen in this country.
I was impressed that you got figs.
Yeah, but I've now got, that is honestly shepherd's bush bananas. Can you believe the last two people that I have seen who have managed to grow bananas have made it into the newspapers? It's that rare.
Yeah, well, you've had to do this yourself.
I've had to put it on the television myself and on the radio, but it isn't that impressive.
That is impressive.
And
Did you do anything in particular to make that happen?
No, it does mean that the mother tree will die now.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, once they fruit and they then die off. But there's already 10 babies been born this year.
Are you going to? Okay.
They have babies. Well, you don't plant them. It comes from the root system, and they poke back up, and it grows another tree. You can't. I don't think of planting a banana. Mind you, the seeds that will be in there, you could probably propagate.
So it's like potato, or like strawberries.
Yeah.
Strawberries, kind of.
But you can. I can eat those. I can cook with them. They probably won't ripen. But that is a scene from Shepherd's Bush.
Well, I mean, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm exceptionally proud and excited.
What's the localist of local papers that you could take your
I don't know. I'm going to have to do something with it.
Shepherd's Bunch would be quite good. I don't know. We can workshop this.
I've grown bananas.
You've grown bananas. What are you going to do? What do you know?
I'm going to wait to see how much they grow, and then I'm going to cook them.
You're going to cook them?
You're
going to eat them?
Yeah. Why not?
Do you think this is global warming?
Of course it is. Yeah.
It's global warming.
But who cares? I've got bananas. Ed Wiseman.
You'll have chimpanzees next.
It will be.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good morning to you. So yeah, my exciting news. And listen, I wasn't lying to you. I am excited about it. I'm very excited that I have managed to produce actual bananas on a banana tree. I never thought, I was told it would never happen. I was told that I would never, there they are, if you're watching on television, look at that. I was told it would never happen. But I do want to hear from you or see pictures of what you've been able to grow in your gardens this summer, because that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been so hot this year for so long. Because I've had these banana trees, like I said, for a few years now, and they've never flowered, they've never borne fruit. So I am so utterly excited, and it's fascinating to see how bananas grow. And the pod at the bottom there that you can see looks a bit like a triffid. The pod, those you can see one layer, they lift up, it splits at the bottom, and then those pod leaves lift up, and underneath the pod leaves you can just see the beginnings of more bananas. So they're like flowers, and then they become bananas, and then the next bit of the pod will lift up. And then the banana. See, for me, that I find that. I see how sad I am. I find that fascinating. I love watching things grow like that. I love to see how it all works. Anyway, what have you been able to grow in your garden with this incredibly hot summer? Do let me know. Send photographs if you've got them, but if not, I'll just take your word for it. 0344 499 1000. Calls charged at national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. I want to see what this weather has done to your garden. And maybe it's killed stuff, I don't know. But maybe, just maybe, you also have got fruit, bananas, or any kind of fruit. I mean, I've got grapes and figs as well. So I'm just fascinated to see if what other people's gardens have done this summer. I'd love to talk to you about it. Although Jeffrey is going to pop my bubble now. Jeffrey's in Minehead.
Hello.
Morning. Are you going to ruin my day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what do you want? No.
Oh, you're not the. Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. I had a phone call that I thought was from somebody who was going to tell me that my bananas were not that rare. So I'll recalibrate, Jeffrey. Forgive me.
Be honest with you, I'm quite tired. Can't wait to get into bed.
Oh, bless you, Jeffrey. Yeah. Talking about homelessness, tell me about you. Right. What happened to you?
Well, I had a bungalow in Bridgewater in Somerset, and because I had what happened to me as a child, I didn't have a good childhood, and I couldn't look after it, and they put me in the same bungalow. I was going to be there for about 2 weeks, and the council would pay for the electric and gas.
Right.
I was there for a year. I was there for 1 year, and they was doing charges for up to £30,000, which I damaged. Of course, I had a couple of breakdowns, mental breakdowns.
Right.
And I had to go on antidepressant tablets.
So you damaged the property that you were in?
Accidentally, yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of breakdowns, yeah. So I couldn't look after it. And they was putting up plants and stuff like that and overcharging. So £30,000 was owing to them. So I went to a church in Taunton. Excuse me. And a church there paid like 680 quid bankruptcy and managed to got rid of it. But now I'm in Minehead, which I want to get out of Minehead and go back to Taunton. Last year I was staying with a lady in Taunton who had mental health issues, bipolar, right. And I had to get out because she was all right 1 minute. And next minute, she can be really nasty.
Yeah.
I had my own room.
That's very destabilising, isn't it, to be around someone like that?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is, you don't have to be homeless. I mean, I'm actually in supporters accommodation. You've got support workers, but they're not really brilliant, the support workers there. So
as I was saying, Jeffrey, and actually you're bearing witness to this, is it's not just a simple case of putting a roof over your head, right? Because they did that with you. They gave you the bungalow, but your mental health issues were not addressed enough for you to be able to live there and look after yourself properly.
I was abused as a child mentally.
Yeah.
So I had, I couldn't help it. I had a couple breakdowns too.
Yeah, nobody's blaming you. Nobody's blaming you. But what I'm saying is that it's not as simple as just giving somebody somewhere to live, that there needs to be much more support behind that.
I think it ought to be help with jobs. You can work in council property, Anyway, so I'm actually here, but I want to get out of here. So I'm on Home Finder again. And
so is that where you swap? If you find somebody in Taunton who wants to move to Minehead, you can swap?
No, it's the bidding, but in these places. Can I tell you where I'm staying at?
Yeah, no reason. Unless you're giving away somebody's personal details.
YMCA.
Oh, okay.
And you don't have to be homeless. Anybody can get in the you go to the council. You can actually go in the YMCA. That's fine too. I don't want to be in Minehead. I want to be back at Taunton way. And
is there no YMCA in Taunton you can move to?
There is, but younger people. For younger people. And so it's like £300 some odd pound a week. I'm on university credit. I got to pay £135 out of my university credit a month. So if you work that out in a month, but the council won't do anything. It's either the YMCA or homeless.
So that's it. There's no help for you. And are you getting supported with your mental health issues?
I'm fine. I get a bit of anxiety and OCD, but I'm fine. I cope all right. I won't have social care. And then, the council say, if I had social care, they might help. Or I would have to pay the vet. But I've gone to, have you heard of Law Stop in London? I've gone to them, sort of like, and assistant advice. Assistant advice won't do anything. They just give you advice. But Law Stop, I'm waiting for them to. I have a meeting with them.
There's a real gap, isn't there? It just seems that there's you who's got, some issues with mental health, and certainly born through the childhood that you went through, and all you need is a little bit of extra support, and you'd be fine, and you could get a job, and you could pay back into society. But without that support, you're struggling on universal credit in a YMCA with very little hope to help you move forward.
There's nothing here in Minehead, nothing at all. Nothing.
How did you end up in Minehead?
I could went to, I didn't even know Somerset. I could went to Highbridge, the Burnham on Sea, Highbridge.
Yeah.
But I won't go there because a lot of people there come from Bridgewater, and everybody knows it, everybody in Bridgewater. But mainly it's either was there or here in Minehead. But I tried to see if I could go to another YMCA where there's a train station, because I like getting out and about on the train, and going from different towns. And,
And Taunton's lovely. We used to go there on holiday when we were kids. So why Taunton for you?
Well, do you know what I've been doing? I've been going to Pride festivals.
Right.
I
nice thing to do. Yeah,
I've been doing that. Yeah. I was born at Taunton, and I was born at Taunton at Musgrove Park Hospital, and I went to boarding school there, so I left in 1981.
So that's where you feel home is?
Yeah, in a way, because I didn't have a rotten childhood.
Yeah.
My home was Bridgewater. But,
so the YMCA, is there any other accommodation you can get into in Taunton? Or would you need help with that?
I need help. I'm hoping the Law Stop will try and help me with this. I won't mind support accommodation somewhere. There is a place called Lindy House in Taunton, but it's difficult to live there because of the people there. But it's the people who live there. There's
so they will have issues as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been told it's difficult to live there, but
It's such a shame, because what I'm hearing is that you just need a little bit of extra help, and you would fly, you'd be great. But so you don't need that much, really, in order to, if you got to Taunton and you were settled, you could get a job. It would help with your mental health issues hugely. All of those things would be easy.
I came here last September, and I'm leaving here next year in the summer. I could be homeless again. Be homeless again. I don't find anywhere. Is there
a limit to how long you can stay where you are?
You can stay here for 2 years. But you can stay here for 3 years, and that's why I asked the support workers, how long can you stay here for? And they said, well, they won't see you homeless. But no, I don't want to stay in Minehead.
Right, and is Minehead and Taunton presumably are different councils?
You got Taunton Council, so it's the same council.
It is the same council. Well, then you should be able to move, because I had an issue with my brother in that I wanted him to move from Lewisham to Hammersmith and Fulham, and they wouldn't move him. Well, Hammersmith and Fulham wouldn't accept him, so he's miles away from me, and I wanted him in the same borough.
I cope quite well. I had to have counselling, because of my childhood. I had to have talking counselling. But I'm coping all right. It's just I'm in Minehead at this YMCA, and I need to get out. So next year I'll be getting out, but I could be homeless again. So that's the thing.
Yeah, well, that just seems to me to be daft when there's a completely obvious solution to your issues that would put you back into society. And
so the YMCA, I'm on a ban that there's no chance of getting a council property because there's like 500 people in front of me, so I got to do this ban. So with this room here, I'm upstairs, like a flat. So I got half a bedroom, the other half is a kitchen. I got a microwave, a cooker, a kettle, a toaster, and support workers. Mainly, you got to buy your own stuff, washing powder. You got to wash. You got to buy your own food, and on the money I get, and I can't afford to live here really. So the support workers don't see you looking after yourself. They sort of say about getting help, which I think is not right. Because I do look after myself, but I mean, it's a struggle, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. And it seems to me like, your situation could probably be quite easily fixed with a little bit of effort. And put you back on the... No, not by you, but by the system that you're in. The system should be helping you, and it would be if I was in your local council, I'd be saying, right, well, here's Jeffrey. We know what he needs. We know what he wants. So let's do it, and then he can settle in Taunton and get himself a job. I mean, it doesn't seem to be that difficult.
Last year, I was camping at the back of the police station, council offices in Taunton, for on and off there, because I was working at the fun fair. I work on the fun fairs now and again, at Bridgewater Fun Fair. So I was camping, and I had my tent at the back of the council offices, and there's a police station as well at the back of there, in Taunton. This was, and I came to Minehead like the end of September last year. So,
and that was because you had to stay at this YMCA.
Well, I didn't have to stay here. I didn't have to come here. I could, but I would still be in a tent. But I got to go. If I'm homeless, I got to go somewhere where I feel safe. I won't go around town centres.
No, that's fair.
Because I don't take drugs or smoke or drink alcohol. So and there's a lot of people around going on YouTube and looking at Manchester and Leeds, and people are homeless and town centres. Yet the police in Taunton, they say, if you're homeless, hang around, sleep around town centres. Well, it's not safe, is it?
No.
You could get beaten up or...
no, absolutely terrifying. And you've slept on the streets before?
When I was 16, I was homeless. I standing up in a phone box, these red phone boxes. I standing up there all night. But then I did have a social worker who got me like lodgings when I was 16. So I'm 61 now, but
Wow.
I mean, I know what it's like to be homeless. But I think people, a church, a vicar in Taunton will come up 500 quid deposit if I can find a room, but it's finding a room. I might have a bit of luck with a couple. A person in Taunton who might let out a room to me. I got to ring them back mid-September.
But will they continue to support you with your mental health, no matter where you move?
Well, but be honest with you, I'm not too bad. I seem to cope all right.
Okay.
With my mental health, I seem to cope all right. But I mean, it's just I don't want to be stuck here. I'm minded. But, I mean, I just think I come across like on spare rooms, there's people got rooms, and you see rooms, about 500, and not all that. All of them are not expensive. I mean, I see rooms about 500. I saw one the other day in Wales, I think about 350 some pound a month, and they will set people on universe credit. So
there are options for you. You just got to keep looking. You got to keep trying to get what you want.
It can weigh you down a bit.
Of course. Of course. I mean, it's incredibly difficult when you feel the system is against you, or that you're just not getting that breakthrough. But you will. You will, Jeffrey. You'll find it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm just a bit sort of like me getting older. It's a bit.
It's scary. Yeah.
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 I don't want to be. I'm not going to be put in a home or forced with social care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I could travel the fair, but I mean, it's.
That's no life for somebody getting older either, is it? That's difficult.
Well, I like to go into Pride and being gay. I mean, being gay.
Is there a good gay scene in Taunton?
No, there isn't. There's nothing at all. There's nothing at all.
That's a shame.
Pride. I go to Pride quite a bit.
Is Taunton the right place for you then, if you're gay?
No, but there's always a train station here in Minehead. There's a bus. About an hour and a half to get on a bus, £3, £3 each way. Hour and a half to get on a bus from here in Minehead to get to Taunton and back. When I was staying with this lady in Taunton, it was easy to get to things on the train. There was a train station, do you know what I mean? I just get up to Bristol, go to Plymouth.
Are you not better to be living in an environment where there are more gay people, though? So you feel less isolated. You can.
Well, it's finding somewhere, isn't it? It's finding somewhere. I mean, Plymouth is all right. I was down Plymouth.
I was going to suggest Plymouth. Yeah.
But
it's a nice place. I just think where there's more community for you might be a good thing, where there is community, where you can just go to a coffee shop and know that you're, with like-minded people, and that feeling of safety and security you get from finding your people, if you like. But that maybe Taunton isn't the right place.
I think when you actually get older, I think you tend to go off it a bit. I mean, I like going to Pride. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about being on the gay scene. I'm talking about being in the gay community, which is the two different things, right? So just being around community where there are people like you. I think that becomes more and more important the older you get, because otherwise your world tends to get smaller and smaller. And there will be a point at which you won't want to get on a train for 2 or 3 hours to be in that community. That may be, at this age, sensible to start thinking about being within a community that accepts you and loves you and wants to talk to you and spend time with you, rather than travelling to it.
Years ago, there used to be quite a lot of pubs and clubs in Taunton, but it's all gone now.
Yeah.
And I was down in Plymouth with Pride Festival. not last Saturday, Saturday before. And there's a pub down there, a club, but I mean...
That's not the same as a community, though, is it? A community of people who are like you, or at least, you know, are open-minded or whatever.
Well, yeah, quite a lot of it seems to be in Manchester, isn't it? Like London.
Well, Manchester, London, any city hub. I would have thought Plymouth would have had a really good gay community.
No, I looked on the phone. There's nothing there.
Really?
Nothing there. No, you only got the pub and a nightclub there.
In Plymouth, the whole of Plymouth.
Yeah, you got.
There's Bristol. Bristol's got a great gay community.
Well, yeah, no,
it's a bit further out. But...
Just you got quite a few pubs there, nightclubs there, but that's it.
Yeah, but there's a gay community. It's not all about the scene. That's the difference between the gay scene and the gay community.
I was looking on the phone like that, and there's just nothing. I mean, Taunton, there's just nothing at all. I mean, Bristol, there's no like it used to be.
Yeah, but there's a fantastic gay community there. Like I said, I'm not talking about the gay scene, clubbing and pubs and all of that, but the gay community is thriving.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, community. Yeah, but then you got to go to a pub to meet them, haven't you? You know.
No, you just find the areas where there's a good gay community. Rather than looking for the gay scene and travelling to it. I just worry as you get older you might get a bit more isolated, that's all.
Yeah.
Your world gets smaller and smaller as you get older, usually by choice, but sometimes not. Listen, I wish you luck, Jeffrey. Keep in touch.
I'm not old yet.
No, you're not old yet. Definitely not. Blimey.
Yeah.
But listen, you take care and good luck with your search and everything, and let me know how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your help. Yeah,
all right. You take care. Lovely to talk to you, Jeffrey. Thank you very much indeed. See, some things that doesn't sound like it would be that complicated to help Jeffrey out, does it? Bless him. Anyway, let me know if you've ever had experience with homelessness or rough sleeping and what led you there. With Jeffrey, though, it was clearly mental health issues. So that's what's got to be fixed, rather than providing just a roof over somebody's head. Quick break. I'll be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you with Talk Back, your chance to do exactly that. And we are talking about homelessness and rough sleeping, of course, because our new Prime Minister is determined that he's going to end rough sleeping. And I'm afraid that I think that the situation is way more complicated than just providing a roof over somebody's head, as we've just actually had beautifully illustrated by Jeffrey there, that it is not just a case of finding a room for somebody, that there are people with mental health issues, there are people with addiction problems, domestic violence. There's all sorts of issues that need to be fixed, and that will fix rough sleeping. So it's not the rough sleeping is the end result of societal issues and problems. So you can take somebody off the street, but they will just be replaced by somebody else if we don't fix the fundamentals. So that's why I'm a little bit cynical about Andy Burnham's wish to end, or thinking that he can end rough sleeping. I'd love to hear from you. I've got loads of messages coming through. What's happening with you, with your housing? I think the systems seem to be so complicated. I just can't get my head around it. So let me know about your story. 0344 499 1000. Joining me now from Colorado is Danielle. Is it Colorado Springs?
No, I'm in Denver.
Oh, right.
But I'm not from Denver.
Oh.
We spoke a long time ago. I actually called you when we were talking about long COVID, and I'm the firefighter that got it.
Oh, my goodness.
You weren't me, or may you not remember. Yes, so I do listen to you a lot.
Oh, bless you.
I met the lovely Claire Muldoon.
The Muldoon?
Beginning of the year. Yeah, I was back home. I met up with Phil Davis, and we had a really nice visit. He showed me around the studio, and I got to meet Claire and have a chat with her, and she's lovely, and we talked about you.
Claire Muldoon. So did you call her Muldoon?
Yes, please send her my love. She was slightly terrifying, though, but brilliant.
She is terrifying, yeah, she is. I'm scared of her. That's why she's not in the studio often with me. She's too scary. Yeah, she loves being called Muldoon. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it drives her nuts. But, yeah, she was brilliant.
She's a lovely woman.
Phil's amazing. Phil is like my spirit animal when it comes to politics. And I love it when the two of you get on together. It's great. He's fantastic.
Oh, Claire,
we need more Phil.
Yeah. Oh, Phil Dave, yeah, he's a good man. He's got his birthday coming up soon,
yes,
actually.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, it's my birthday today. I'm 60.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. What are you doing?
Thank you. Not much. My partner flew back. He's a pilot. He flew back from Japan yesterday, so he's trash. So we will get together tomorrow, and he will be spending lots of money on me.
Good.
He doesn't have a choice.
Good. What do you want him to buy you?
Oh, I had this horrible addiction for a certain boot company, so we'll be doing that and going for a nice supper. But it's like 1,000 degrees here, so it's very hard to look cute while you're melting.
Yes.
So
yes, we're learning that in the UK this year. It's not cute.
I know.
It's not good.
No, it's not.
But the temperature's different. It can be hot in Colorado, but if it was the same temperature, it's not the same.
Except the altitude, it's like a layer has been taken off the cover of the Earth, because there's very little ozone, and it feels, you know, that scene with a comedian, Steve Coogan, when he did that series. When he was staying in a motel and he was trying to get back on the BBC.
Yes.
There's a scene where when he's talking, he tried to take a bite out of a pastry. He actually microwaved, and he went, "Oh my God, it's hotter than the sun." Well, that's exactly what the sun is like here. It is insanely hot because you're so high up. It's very, very different.
Oh God, Alan Partridge. That's what it is.
Alan Partridge, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm quintessentially very English, really.
Yeah, I loved Alan Partridge. We all know an Alan Partridge in the radio industry, I tell you that. Talk to me about homelessness. You don't sound like the kind of person that would have much of a relationship with it. Well,
here's the thing. When you were talking earlier and you said you saw this woman sort of going across the street that was kind of unsafe and you weren't sure what to do.
Yeah.
That's a big bulk of the kind of calls that I would get in San Francisco. The fire department is called, and the police. We both go out. So we have our own private ambulance service. And I was in 21 years, and when I went in, you had to spend time working on the ambulance as well as being on an engine and a truck. So we have our own ambulance services, and there's also private, but we always run with the cops when it comes to situations like that. So in that situation, if somebody sees somebody like that, the best thing you can do is actually call the fire department.
Oh, really?
Because they will have paramedics, and they can actually start the process of contacting the other kinds of agencies that need to be notified to get that person more care. Initially, they may just be sent to A&E, and then they will let social services know, et cetera, et cetera. Because I've had many repeat customers with failure to live situations where I've had to activate certain systems over the years. And in fact, we get like the city of San Francisco ends up being their conservator situation. So I can tell you right now, homelessness in San Francisco, places like San Francisco, is a very Dem-run city. It's a business. The nonprofits are making money. They don't want it to end.
Really?
And I've thought about this over and over and over, because I've gone through the gambit of having repeat customers that I got to know. I know their stories, and down to when COVID hit. We just had naked people walking around. I mean, we have naked people walking around San Francisco anyway, but it was like zombie town. It was utterly insane. So the situation for us is that the fire department gets called, ambulance gets sent out with us, and then the police will come if we need them to help restrain further than what we can do, and or 5150 somebody, which means that they need to put a hold on them. So,
is there a fentanyl crisis around where you're? Yeah, because those are the images that I've seen. Right, the people who zombies, literal, frozen in odd positions.
Yes, but honestly, and I'm not saying this from any political stance. You look at Portland, you look at LA, you look at San Francisco, you look at some places in Chicago, New York. It's all the same political problem, and you kind of drive down and follow the dots to see where the money's coming from, because this actually is an industry, and you will find out that the cities and the governments are funding it, and they literally put a plaster on it, because it.
Well, what do you mean they're funding it?
Beneficial.
They're funding the drugs, or they're funding the.
Petrie, I remember specifically, I would be sent down to Engine 3. Engine 3 is the busiest engine in the entire states of America. Engine 3 in the Tenderloin. And it is a very, very rundown area. And you go across the street and you have a really posh hotel. It's a very odd place. And I'd be stepping over people in these, we call them SROs. So they're basically government-run hotels. ODing in the hallway to get to somebody who's ODing on the second floor. They are given monthly a stipend. They're given drugs. They're given alcohol allowances. They have food on site provided for them. Their home is paid for. They stay in these hotels. And they're also given a cell phone, which then they top up. The government tops up every month. They don't need to do anything else except get high. And we show up every time they OD, and then they go through to A&E, and then they come back out again, right back into that system.
So they're being enabled. They're being enabled to continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've thought about this long and hard from all angles, like the gentleman you were talking to earlier. I've heard every story you can imagine. And the only thing that's going to fix it is to open up the long-term mental health institutions again. Ronald Reagan closed them. And that was when the problem started. They need that source, because if somebody is really mentally ill, that's a place where they're going to stay. And if they're just in crisis, they will get them through that, and then they can put them through the system to get the services that they need to be able to actually.
Do you know, I completely agree with you on that. When we switched to care in the community, it was a complete disaster, because there are people who do need help, and they need, live-in help. I'm not talking about institutions in the same way as a mental institution. I'm talking about places where they can go to be cared for, where they're, that they'd stay. That they can stay relatively long term and get the help that they need. And as soon as we did the care in the community, what an absolute farce that is. It's a joke.
Well, it's the same. It's the same here.
Yeah.
I can't speak for Colorado because I've retired since, but so I've been in those in San Francisco, because often I would either take clients to either A&E, or would there be a dry out center, or often to the vet. Not as in the animals, but for
For veterans, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And the quality of care was just, I mean, I'd have patients sometimes say, I'd rather be on the street. And that therein lies the problem.
It's such short-termism, isn't it?
It is. And here's the other interesting thing. They have tried opening these trailer parks where they put brand new self-contained trailers, individual trailers. There is an entrance, a gated entrance that you've got to go through with a 24-hour nurse on site. And they will put, if you're lucky, you'll get one of these trailers. But when I've responded to those, again, it's the same situation with ODing or, some type of medical crisis. Even it could be somebody who's just run out of their meds and now they know that their voices is coming back and they need assistance. And that's okay. But they will trash what they have. They don't have this drive to know that they actually have the tools to be able to actually get ahead in life. They just think it's temporary and they're just going to be thrown out on the streets again because it's never stuck. These systems have never really stuck and they don't feel safe. And I mean, honestly, I blame politics and I blame money.
Yeah, listen, it always ends up being that. I completely agree with you. Follow the money. It's always about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely fascinating talking to you, and I'd love to do it for longer, but I'm 2 breaks behind now because I've been chatting with you.
No problem.
But it's lovely to talk to you, Danielle. A really fascinating point of view. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
You take care, all right, my darling, and I'll speak to you again hopefully soon. You look after yourself and try and stay cool. Quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. I'm just looking at some of your messages. Got one here from Sarah, who is saying, I have my housing association bungalow up for swap on the 3 main mutual exchange websites. See, this seems very confusing to me. I got this bungalow by swapping from another bungalow in Devon in 2010. Unfortunately, the main mutual exchange website has drastically declined and refused to take action against people who list houses and flats as wheelchair accessible, bungalows, terraced houses as detached, etc. I no longer want to be in Cornwall because of the topography. As my housing is suitable, I have no realistic chance of getting to the top of a waiting list in another county. I'll ask that Angela Rayner. Yeah, ask her. Introduce minimum standards for mutual exchange websites and introduce a single England or UK-wide housing list. Those are the things that Sarah thinks will actually help the situation. Carol says, a year ago we had to move from a block of flats to a bungalow with a small garden back and front over 60s estate. Yay, I got a garden. I'm looking around. It's and I informed the bloke, oh, look, enough room for a hot tub. His face was priceless. Instead, I've opted for roses, jasmine and lavender in pots. Great news about the banana tree. I know from over the weeks it means a lot to you. It does. I'm very sad. I'm a very sad person, but it means an awful lot to me. Lavender. I can't grow lavender at the moment. I've got a real problem. I think I've picked the wrong lavender. I'm going to have to look at another type of lavender. And Stephen has said, this is the first time I've grown runner beans. I'm very pleased, thanks to the hot weather. Congratulations. They are very impressive. Well done. That's amazing. Yeah, so this is just the gardener's corner here now. Let's go to Kevin, who's in Hull, talk about homelessness. Morning, Kevin. How are you?
Good morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about my bananas.
Right, well, I'm not going there.
No, I did have grown some bananas, Kevin. I mean, I'm very excited. Anyway, carry on. Homelessness. Tell me about it. Have you been homeless before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What led to that?
Well, basically, relationships and this, that and the other.
So it can happen to anybody, can't it? You know, just... So you were living with somebody, you broke up, and you ended up on the street?
Yeah. And the thing is, once you're on the street, you meet the real homeless. I'm not talking about the people outside of Greg's, Tesco's, begging for some money. The real homeless, they sleep during the day. And they keep awake at night because there are people out there who would like to GBH.
Yeah, it must be safer to sleep during the day.
Yes, it is very safe to sleep during the day, and especially at this time of year.
Yeah.
But when you get a guy outside a shop who has got a dishevelled single duvet, and they really smell. They really smell. Bless them. But the thing is, there is what we call clever beggars. And I met one once. I was going in and out of a shop before I went on the streets. And at the end of 10:30, 11 o'clock, when the mini Tesco's closed, he walked across the road with a bag full of food and probably some money and a hot cappuccino and all of that. And he got in a car and drove off. And I was like, what the F?
That is horrific. There used to be a lot of those types of beggars in London when I was probably in my 20s. You'd see them and then they get into a Bentley, literally, having sat begging all day at Notting Hill.
Yes, yeah, I totally believe it. But I do remember in your 20s and you were very drunk, so we won't go there.
Let's not go there. Probably a good idea.
I'm only joking, you know me.
But homelessness, how long were you on the streets for?
Fortunately for me, just under 2 weeks. But I would like to tell you a little story. There was a guy who was on the streets for a long time. He had a black cape and what I would call a Scottish military cap on.
Right.
And he was from the Black Watch.
Right.
And some guys actually came down from the military base and asked him, and of course, when you're in the military, your military number, you know off by heart. And they wanted to take him back because he was still had provenance. You know, you're an old guy. You've served.
Yeah.
Let's take you back. And he wouldn't go. He would not go. And I think this is the mental health part of it. There is people you would love to take off the street, put them in your own home, and get them. Once you've got a permanent residence, you can get benefits, but they don't want it.
Some of them don't. I was quite stunned by that, Kevin, when I did this documentary. And some people I spoke to said, I don't want to. This is my life. I'm living on the streets. That's what I want. And they live and they die young on the streets, but that's the way they want to live. And there are a few that want that life. Other people who are living that life and can't change are people with addiction issues and mental health issues. And they can't survive in a house or a flat.
I'm bless them, because I don't know about addiction, and I can slightly kiss the side of mental issues, but at the end of the day, Joe public don't know what they're going through.
No.
You know, and that's where they need the support. They need the support for their mental issues. I worked in mental care and this is serious mental care, for over 5 years. And believe you me, Petrie, with the right medication and given at the right time, these people can change into the most beautiful people. And I think the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, when they're in a safe place, they're so loving, which then again makes them so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, there is a cure. There is a cure if they want it.
Yeah, but you've got people who've been living on the streets so long, haven't you, now, that some of them don't want that, and that's fine, that's their choice, right? And nobody's going to force them. But for other people, we've got to get them before they get to that point, and help them out.
Yes, I think as the elderly tramps, and I must say tramps, because that's what I renown them as, but there is younger, much younger people with circumstances and abuse that feel safer out there doing what they do. And they all need recalling, but there needs to be a priority. There needs to be like you've been in the military, that there has to be a total recall on these young ones, because they're going to get in massive trouble and abuse, more abuse than trouble.
Yeah, and a lot of the young soldiers that are on the streets, they are there for a myriad of traumatic reasons as well, but a lot of that I spoke to, Kevin, was because they just didn't know how to live in Civvy Street. Basically, they had no clue about paying a bill. They hadn't paid a bill. They'd never written a check. Well, in those days, written a check, opened a bank account. You know, all of those things, because it was all taken care of for them in the military. And then they slip further and further, and start on the path of addiction too. It's and these things are so simple to fix if you get to them at the early stage. But by the time they're living on the streets for some time, it's an uphill task. Kevin, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to take a break. Back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And we've been talking about homelessness. Got this message from Kaz who says, eviction was my downfall into alcoholism. I was lucky as I had kids, but all the single people out there on the streets will not be fixed. It's a ton of money to rehome them, let alone all the money to help them with addictions. And they're rife on the streets. People drink to numb the pain. Yeah, that's one thing I learnt with doing that documentary. I used to be a little bit judgmental, I think, about people on the streets, going, oh, I'm not going to give you money for alcohol. And then you realise that actually the drink and the drugs is the coping mechanism that they have for living on the street. So it's a never-ending cycle of abuse and self-abuse. It's just horrendous. So, Kaz, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm going to go to the last call. Alex is in Sheffield. Alex, you've good evening, good morning. You've been homeless.
Yeah, yes. Good morning. I originally called up to talk about Cavendish bananas, but then we got onto homelessness, and this.
We can do both, because I do want to talk about. I'm obsessed. So we'll talk about homelessness first.
Yeah. So I'm 31 now. I was 24, I believe, and I was I'd had a bit of an argument with the university I was at,
right.
You know, and like, well, I didn't get technically evicted, but essentially somewhat like, and then I went to live with my parents, and my parents are a little bit hectic themselves. Like, you know, bottles of red wine, you know,
right.
Sort of, you know, the good life, let's put it that way. And so I ended up getting evicted, you know.
Your mum and dad chucked you out?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And then that started, I did about 4 years.
On the streets?
Yeah.
How did you manage?
It was very, very hard, and I'm not really sure how I managed. Like, something like through the grace of God. And sometimes it was very, very hard. Sometimes literally like a blanket in February, in the bushes. Yeah. Wow. I'm not sure how.
And did you continue on a journey to addiction through that?
Yeah. Well, I do have a problem with alcohol.
Right. You still do?
Yeah, I still do now. I mean, it's being managed, and like,
good.
You know, it's not. We don't need to get into like all the intricacies of.
No, we don't. But I'm just going to tell you, be careful. Just because my brother, I was going to say I lost my brother. I have really. He's got alcohol dementia, so just be careful of your brain as well. It's not just your liver. It's not just, you know, other things, but just.
I take thiamine. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it really is insane. And I'm not really, and it led me down so many different weird paths. Like, ended up getting into cults and stuff like that as well.
How did that happen? That was fascinating. Were they just there to help you, and you got involved with them?
Yeah, and it sometimes led to a period of somewhat abstinence, like maybe of 2 or 3 weeks or a month. But then you realised where you were, and you had to escape.
Get out, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think, and you're out of this situation now, you're in your housed, you're homed, you've got somewhere to live?
Yeah, I'm housed by charity.
Right.
At the moment, and you know, the place is in a relatively good shape, but you know, I'm a musician and an artist, so I know that sounds a bit pretentious.
No, it doesn't. It's fine.
Yeah. You know, and I'm sort of just about struggling along. But you know.
So what got you the help to get you off the street? Because my point with Andy Burnham saying he wants to fix rough sleeping is that there are hundreds of reasons why people end up on the street, and there are lots of problems that have led to that situation.
Okay, so there are, and there's good organisations, and I wouldn't call them bad, but there's less good organisations. But there are outreach workers there that, like, you know, through the night go and, like, you know, find people. And yeah, so there is help out there.
Is that how you were found?
Yeah.
So they picked you up, took you in?
Well, they found me, recorded me, and then it sometimes it takes weeks or months to, like, eventually, and then, like, through the various organisations, you know, you get your tick or you're not tick. I mean, I've got a friend now that's in the, you know what, I will name the organisation. I've got a friend that's in the Salvation Army hostel at the moment, and he's ex-army, and he's getting attacked, like, quite literally by, well, crackheads.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah, and like...
Oh, that's difficult, isn't it? That's so difficult. Because where are you safer? Are you safer on this? This is the problem, isn't it? Some people then think they're safer out on the street.
Yeah. Pretty much that's exactly it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you're getting the help. I really am. And you crack on with, you keep going with your art and your music.